The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the solitary stretch of road that led to the Meadowview Motel. Amelia, a young travel blogger with an adventurous spirit, found herself drawn to the allure of this remote establishment nestled among the rolling hills. Her journey had been long and tiresome, the allure of the quaint motel promising a much-needed respite. As she pulled into the gravel lot, the motel's neon sign flickered, casting an ethereal glow against the darkening sky. Amelia's tired eyes scanned the weathered facade, a sense of intrigue mingling with weariness. The sight of the rustic building evoked a sense of nostalgia, reminiscent of a bygone era. Stepping out of her car, Amelia breathed in the crisp evening air, a tinge of anticipation mingling with apprehension. The motel seemed frozen in time, the peeling paint and faded signage lending it an air of mysterious charm. The lobby greeted her with a musty scent and dated decor, a threadbare carpet, mismatched furniture, and a faint hum from a flickering overhead light. A portly man behind the reception desk looked up from his newspaper, his eyes scrutinizing her with a forced smile. "Welcome to Meadowview Motel," he greeted in a practiced tone. "How can I assist you?" Amelia returned the smile, her curiosity piqued by the antiquated charm of the place. "I'd like a room for the night, please," she said, her voice echoing in the quiet lobby. The man handed her a key with a worn tag. "Room 7 on the second floor, enjoy your stay," he replied, his eyes darting back to the newspaper as if eager to resume his interrupted reading. As she made her way up the creaking staircase, Amelia's mind buzzed with excitement, envisioning the quaint room where she would spend the night. However, as she unlocked the door to room 7, an uneasy feeling crept over her, a subtle sensation that something was amiss. The room was modest yet cozy, adorned with vintage furniture and floral curtains that billowed softly in the evening breeze. Amelia dropped her bag onto the bed, her gaze lingering on the old-fashioned television and the peculiar arrangement of the room. A quick exploration revealed nothing unusual, yet an odd sensation lingered, an intangible unease that whispered of hidden secrets. Dismissing it as mere fatigue from the journey, Amelia settled in, hoping for a peaceful night's rest. As the night deepened, Amelia's exhaustion waned, replaced by an inexplicable restlessness. She tossed and turned, her mind unable to shake off the unsettling feeling that lingered within the confines of room 7. A faint click roused her from her fitful slumber. Groggy and disoriented, Amelia blinked in the dimness, her eyes adjusting to the shadows dancing across the room. The TV screen emitted a faint glow, casting shadows on the walls. Her heart raced as she realized the source of the sound. A small camera mounted inconspicuously in the corner of the room, its lens fixed upon the bed. Shock coursed through her veins, the realization sending a surge of panic through her body. Thoughts raced through her mind, attempting to rationalize the presence of the camera, but no explanation could ease the rising terror. Amelia's hands trembled as she approached the camera, her breath shallow and erratic. With trembling fingers, she unplugged it from the power source, the silence that followed feeling deafening in the stillness of the room. Questions swirled in her mind, the sense of violation and vulnerability unsettling her to the core. Who was watching? How long had she been under surveillance? And most alarmingly, what purpose did this clandestine recording serve? Dread knotted in her stomach, urging her to flee, but a gnawing curiosity compelled her to investigate further. She rummaged through the room, scouring every nook and cranny for any evidence of hidden cameras or recording devices. Her search led her to a small ventilation grill near the ceiling, its metal frame rusted with age. With trepidation, Amelia stood on tiptoe, peering into the dark recesses beyond the grill. There, hidden within the shadows, lay a maze network of wires and surveillance equipment, an intricate setup of cameras meticulously positioned to capture every corner of the room. The realization struck her like a physical blow. This was no mere oversight or malfunctioning equipment. This was a meticulously orchestrated scheme of voyeurism, a violation of privacy beyond comprehension. An odd feeling went down her back as an alarming thought seeped into her mind. Was she the only guest subjected to this invasive scrutiny? A surge of adrenaline propelled Amelia to action. With frantic haste, she gathered her belongings, her mind racing with a singular focus: to confront the motel manager, to demand answers, to expose this egregious violation. As she burst into the lobby, her eyes met the gaze of the manager who sat behind the reception desk, an unreadable expression etched on his face. Amelia's voice trembled with anger and fear as she confronted him, accusing him of violating her privacy, demanding an explanation for the covert surveillance. The manager's facade remained strangely calm, his gaze unwavering. "I assure you, it's for your safety, miss," he replied, his tone unsettlingly composed. Anger surged within her, mingling with the fear that threatened to overwhelm her senses. "Safety? How dare you invade my privacy under the guise of safety? Who else have you been watching? What have you done with those recordings?" Amelia's voice quivered with a mix of fury and dread. Before the manager could respond, a disturbing realization dawned upon her. His calm demeanor held an underlying menace, a sinister edge that scared her. With mounting horror, Amelia noticed a flicker of movement behind the manager, a fleeting glimpse of shadowy figures lurking in the dark corners of the lobby, their presence ominous and foreboding. The manager's lips curled into a twisted smirk, his eyes gleaming with an unkind glint. "You see, my dear guest, the Meadowview Motel harbors its own secrets," he uttered in a serene tone. Before Amelia could react, a cacophony of footsteps echoed from the corridors, emerging from every corner of the motel. Shadowy figures materialized, encircling her with silent intent, their faces obscured by darkness. Paralyzed with fear, Amelia's desperate cries echoed through the desolate lobby, drowned out by the ominous silence of the motel and the menacing presence of those who lurked within its clandestine depths. And in that moment of terror and despair, the sinister truth of the Meadowview Motel unfolded, a web of voyeurism and evil, orchestrated by the manager and his clandestine accomplices who thrived on the voyeuristic gaze, ensnaring unsuspecting guests within their realm of horror. Amelia's anguished screams were swallowed by the suffocating darkness, becoming yet another haunting echo in the watchful eye of the Meadowview Motel. Story 2. In the heart of a desolate town nestled among the tall, looming trees, there stood an ancient motel, its facade weathered by time and neglect. It bore the name Whispering Pines Motel, in faded letters that barely clung to the peeling paint. A once thriving establishment now echoed only with the sound of emptiness and the whispers of its forgotten past. It was a moonless night when Laura and Jack arrived, weary from hours of driving through winding roads that seemed to lead nowhere. The couple, seeking respite from the endless journey, stumbled upon the strange motel. The flickering neon sign outside barely illuminated the gravel parking lot, casting shadows that danced across the cracked pavement. Jack pulled their beaten-up car to a halt, the engine sputtering before falling silent. Laura peered out of the window, her eyes scanning the dark surroundings. "Are you sure about this place, Jack?" she asked, her voice tinged with uncertainty. Jack glanced at the foreboding motel. "It's late, Laura. This is the only place around for miles. Let's just stay for the night and leave first thing in the morning," he replied, trying to sound more confident than he felt. Reluctantly, they stepped out of the car and made their way to the motel's entrance. The wooden door creaked open as they entered, revealing a lobby adorned with dusty furniture and an ancient reception desk. The air felt heavy, thick with a sense of foreboding. A stooped old man emerged from the shadows behind the desk, his face etched with wrinkles and his eyes clouded with age. "Welcome to Whispering Pines Motel," he rasped, his voice scratchy and low. "How can I help you tonight?" "We need a room for the night," Jack said, trying to ignore the unsettling feeling creeping up his neck. The old man nodded slowly, reaching for a tarnished brass key hanging on a peg behind the desk. He handed it to Jack. "Room 13, he murmured, his gaze fixed on some distant point beyond them. Taking the key, the couple made their way down a corridor, the faint smell of mildew lingering in the air. Room 13 was at the far end, its door slightly ajar as if beckoning them inside. Once inside, Laura shivered, feeling a cold that seemed to penetrate her bones. The room was bare and devoid of any warmth, the ancient wallpaper peeling at the edges. Jack tried to reassure her, but even he couldn't shake off the unease that hung in the stale air. As the night deepened, strange sounds began to echo through the motel. The faint whispers of the wind outside, the creaking of floorboards, and occasional faint murmurs that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. Laura tossed and turned in the uncomfortable bed, unable to shake off the feeling of being watched. Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream pierced the silence, jolting both of them awake. Heart-pounding, Jack leaped out of bed, rushing into the corridor. The source of the scream seemed to originate from the room adjacent to theirs. They found the door ajar, and as Jack pushed it open, the sight before them froze their blood. A ghastly scene unfolded. The room bathed in a crimson glow, furniture overturned, and crimson streaks splattered across the walls. In the center of the chaos stood the old man from the reception, his eyes wide and wild, a sinister grin etched on his face. He clutched a gleaming knife, its blade glistening in the light. "Welcome to Whispering Pines, where secrets are kept," he hissed, his voice unnaturally twisted. Laura gasped in horror, trying to comprehend the nightmarish reality unfolding before her. Before they could react, the old man lunged towards them, his laughter echoing maniacally through the desolate halls. Jack pushed Laura behind him, his heart pounding with fear and adrenaline. They bolted back towards their room, the sound of the old man's crazed laughter echoing through the corridors. As they reached their door, Jack fumbled with the key, his hands shaking uncontrollably. With a click, they managed to lock the door just as the old man's heavy footsteps drew closer. Breathless and trembling, they huddled in the corner of the room, their eyes wide with terror. The sound of the old man's footsteps halted outside their door, followed by a bone-chilling silence that stretched on for an agonizing moment. Then, without warning, the door creaked open, revealing the twisted silhouette of the old man, his sinister grin illuminated by the pale moonlight that filtered in through the window. With a haunting whisper, he uttered, "You can never leave Whispering Pines. You'll join the secrets that reside within." Before they could react, the old man lunged forward, the glint of the blade in his hand flashing in the darkness. The gleaming blade arced through the air, glinting cruel in the moonlight as the old man lunged toward them. Laura's scream pierced the air, mingling with Jack's desperate attempts to push the assailant away. In a frantic struggle, Jack grappled with the old man, their bodies colliding against the room's worn-out furniture. Laura's eyes widened with terror as she searched for anything to defend herself. Amidst the chaos, Jack managed to knock the knife from the old man's grasp, sending it skittering across the floor. With a surge of adrenaline, he wrestled the assailant to the ground, pinning him down. "Call for help, Laura, now." Jack's voice trembled with urgency as he strained to keep the old man restrained. Laura fumbled for her phone, her fingers shaking violently as she dialed emergency services. But as she raised the phone to her ear, a grim realization struck her. There was no signal. Panic surged within her, the walls of the motel seemingly suffocating her with their evil presence. The struggle continued in the room, Jack's strength waning against the surprising vigor of the old man. It was as if some unnatural force fueled the assailant, lending him in strange strength. With a sudden burst of energy, the old man shoved Jack aside, his eyes alight with a feral intensity. He scrambled to his feet, his gaze fixated on Laura, who stood frozen in terror. "You think you can escape? You think you can unravel the secrets of this place?" The old man spat, his voice twisted with madness. "The Whispering Pines feeds on your fear, on your despair. You're trapped here with me." Laura's breaths came in ragged gasps as she backed away, her eyes darting around the room in a desperate search for an escape route. But the room seemed to constrict around her, the walls closing in with an oppressive weight. In a last-ditch effort, Jack lunged toward the old man, tackling him to the ground once more. But before he could subdue him, a haunting whisper seemed to echo from the very foundation of the motel, a chorus of disembodied voices that melded together in a dark symphony. "The secrets must be kept." The room quivered as if caught in the grip of an unseen force. Shadows danced along the walls, contorting into grotesque shapes that twisted and writhed in macabre patterns. Laura staggered backward, her mind reeling with fear and confusion. As Jack grappled with the old man, an unearthly sensation washed over them, an inexplicable pull toward the motel's hidden depths. Their surroundings blurred and wavered, reality itself bending and warping, as if succumbing to the dark forces that held sway over the Whispering Pines. Suddenly, the motel seemed to unravel before their eyes, its decrepit facade giving way to a sinister revelation. They stood on the precipice of a nightmarish realm, a grotesque web of corridors and chambers that extended far beyond the physical boundaries of the motel they thought they knew. The old man's maniacal laughter pierced through the dissonant whispers, echoing through the twisted corridors of the unearthly expanse. With a final guttural cry, the old man dissolved into the shadows, his laughter lingering as an ominous echo in the air. Laura and Jack found themselves lost in a nightmarish maze, their very existence ensnared within the vicious grip of the whispering pines. Each corridor they navigated seemed to lead to another realm of horror, each chamber revealing grotesque secrets that defied all logic and reason. Time lost its meaning as they stumbled through the surreal landscape of the motel's hidden dimensions, their screams drowned out by the cacophony of whispers that reverberated through the endless corridors. And in the heart of this eldritch labyrinth, the couple's agonized pleas dissolved into the startling symphony of the motel's secrets, becoming yet another haunting whisper lost within its cursed walls. The Whispering Pines Motel stood silent once more, its dark secrets buried within the confines of its twisted reality, waiting for the next unsuspecting souls to become ensnared in its sinister embrace. Story 3. John, a weary traveler seeking solace from the wearisome road, arrived at the Sunset Haven Motel as dusk painted the sky in shades of crimson and gold. The motel stood nestled amidst a serene landscape, its faded sign welcoming guests with a flickering neon glow. Weariness tugged at John's muscles as he trudged into the motel's reception. The scent of aged wood and dust lingered in the air as he approached the middle-aged woman behind the counter, her tired eyes peering at him from behind thick-rimmed glasses. "Welcome to Sunset Haven. How can I assist you?" She greeted with a forced smile, the weariness evident in her voice. "I'd like a room for the night, please," John replied, his fatigue palpable. The woman handed him a key with a faded room number etched onto the tag. "Room 12 on the ground floor. Enjoy your stay," she murmured, her gaze already drifting back to a crossword puzzle on the counter. John lugged his duffel bag across the gravel path, feeling a sense of relief as he reached room 12. As he unlocked the door, a musty odor assaulted his senses, a pungent stench that lingered in the air. The room itself was modest, but the overpowering smell tainted the quaint atmosphere. Ignoring it as a mere inconvenience, John opened a window to let in the evening breeze, hoping to dissipate the unpleasant scent. As the night draped the motel in shadows, John's weariness battled against his restlessness. Sleep eluded him as he tossed and turned, the relentless stench invading his nostrils hanging heavy in the stagnant air. Restless, John decided to take a stroll around the motel grounds, hoping to clear his mind and escape the oppressive odor that clung to room 12. The night was eerily silent, broken only by the occasional rustling of leaves and the distant hum of passing vehicles. As he wandered, a peculiar sensation drew his attention toward the room adjacent to his, room 11. The faint aroma of decay lingered in the air, mingling with the already foul stench that had plagued him since his arrival. Curiosity piqued, John approached the door of room 11. The odor grew stronger, an unsettling amalgamation of rot and something indefinably putrid. With a growing sense of unease, he pressed his ear against the door, straining to catch any sound from within. Silence greeted him, but the sickening stench lingered, clawing at his nostrils. A foreboding sensation settled over him, a feeling that something was terribly amiss behind the closed door. A faint sliver of light escaped from the gap beneath the door, casting a weird glow onto the corridor. John hesitated, torn between his curiosity and an inexplicable dread that gnawed at his instincts. An inexplicable urge to investigate overcame him, fueled by the need to unravel the mystery behind the putrid scent emanating from room 11. He reached for the doorknob, his hand trembling slightly as he twisted it cautiously. The door creaked open, revealing a room adorned with shabby furnishings and an unsettling stillness that hung in the air. The stench intensified, assaulting John's senses with a suffocating weight that made him gag. The room was sparsely furnished, a bed with rumpled sheets, a tattered armchair in the corner, and a faintly humming refrigerator. Yet the source of the noxious odor remained elusive, shrouded in the gloomy confines of the room. John's eyes scanned the space, searching for any clue that could unravel the mystery. As he approached the refrigerator, a wave of dread washed over him, a primal instinct warning him of imminent danger. With trembling hands, he opened the refrigerator door, the putrid smell hitting him like a physical blow. Inside, amidst the cold air, lay decomposing food, containers with mold-covered leftovers, and a sickening sight: a sealed plastic bag stained with dark, ominous splotches. Dread gripped him as he realized the sinister truth. A morbid secret hidden within the confines of Room 11. The stench was no mere neglect or oversight. It was the sickening aroma of something far more sinister. A foreboding scent of death and decay. A sense of horror and revulsion engulfed John, his mind reeling with the implications of what he had stumbled upon. His instincts screamed at him to flee, to seek help, to alert the authorities. But fear rooted him to the spot, paralyzed by the gruesome reality that lay before him. Before he could comprehend the full extent of the intimidating discovery, a shuffling sound drew his attention to the darkest corner of the room. Shadows danced, elongating into grotesque shapes, as a figure stirred from the depths of the gloom. In the dim light, a haggard and disheveled man emerged, his eyes hollow and haunted. A haunting realization struck John. The man was the occupant of Room 11, lurking in the darkness with an air of desolation and despair. As their eyes locked, a silence descended, broken only by the ragged breaths of the man standing before him. Without a word, without a hint of remorse, the man's lips curled into a twisted smirk, a macabre expression that sent a shiver down John's spine. And in that heart-stopping moment, the man's silence spoke volumes, revealing a horrifying truth. Room 11 harbored a secret so sinister, so ghastly, that its presence lingered in the stench of death and the haunting gaze of its forlorn occupant. With a guttural sound that echoed in the suffocating silence, the man retreated back into the shadows, leaving John frozen in horror, the nightmarish sight seared into his memory. The grotesque revelation of Room 11 and its ghastly occupant became yet another awful chapter in the sinister history of the Sunset Haven Motel, a place where secrets festered in the darkness, ensnaring unsuspecting guests within its nightmarish embrace. In the quaint town of Oak Ridge, nestled between rolling hills and dense forests, life was ordinary until whispers of the vanishing began. It all started with Mrs. Thompson, a beloved librarian who failed to show up one morning for her routine story hour. Concern rippled through the community like a silent tremor, prompting worried glances and speculative murmurs. Days turned into weeks, and the mystery of Mrs. Thompson's disappearance deepened. The town's gentle rhythms were disrupted by a palpable unease, an undercurrent of anxiety that coursed through the veins of Oak Ridge. Rumors circulated like tendrils of smoke, conjectures spun from the fragile threads of speculation. Was she abducted? Did she choose to vanish? No one could decipher the truth. In the heart of this turmoil stood Detective James Carter, a seasoned investigator with a penchant for unraveling enigmas. He arrived in Oak Ridge, his presence a beacon of hope to the distressed townsfolk. Determined and methodical, Carter delved into Mrs. Thompson's life, sifting through every fragment of information. Yet the case remained an enigmatic puzzle. The disappearance of Mrs. Thompson was soon followed by others, ordinary people from various walks of life, each one fading into the enigmatic mist of the unknown. Carter sensed a pattern, a subtle tapestry woven with threads of inexplicable occurrences. His meticulous investigation unearthed connections, trivial at first glance but weaving a sinister narrative that crept through the fabric of Oak Ridge's history. There were no signs of struggle, no ransom demands, no logical explanations. The vanishing was an enigma wrapped in a shroud of ambiguity. As Carter combed through witness testimonies and scoured through evidence, the unsettling truth began to unfold like a grotesque tableau. Residents grew wary, haunted by the specter of uncertainty lurking in the shadows. They locked doors, avoided deserted alleys, and cast furtive glances over their shoulders. The once vibrant town square now wore a veneer of desolation, a ghostly echo of its former vitality. Carter found himself consumed by the investigation, sleepless nights spent poring over files, chasing elusive leads that seemed to slip through his fingers like fine grains of sand. The weight of the unsolved mystery bore down on him, gnawing at the edges of his resolve. One frigid evening, as the town lay cloaked in a scary silence, Carter received an anonymous tip. It led him to the outskirts of Oak Ridge, to a battered barn nestled amid overgrown foliage. The detective's pulse quickened as he cautiously ventured inside. the musty air thick with unease. Moonlight filtered through broken beams, casting elongated shadows that danced along the decaying walls. In the center of the barn lay a crude altar, adorned with faded symbols etched in crimson paint. Carter's heart pounded in his chest as he scrutinized the cryptic markings, a chilling realization dawning upon him. Before he could process the revelation, a sudden gust of wind extinguished his flashlight, plunging him into suffocating darkness. Panic clawed at his throat as whispers echoed from unseen corners, insidious murmurs that toyed with his sanity. A voice cold and hollow slithered through the void. "You seek answers, detective. Embrace the truth." The darkness seemed to constrict around Carter, tendrils of fear coiling around his mind. He fumbled for his flashlight, fingers trembling as he struggled against an overwhelming sense of dread. In a desperate attempt to flee, he turned to leave but stumbled upon an unseen obstacle crashing to the ground. And then silence. The townsfolk awoke to an empty oak ridge, a ghost town frozen in time. Detective Carter, the last beacon of hope, had joined the vanishing, leaving behind a chilling message etched into the town square's worn cobblestones. None shall unveil the veil of the vanishing. Embrace the void. In the wake of his disappearance, Oak Ridge became a fading memory, a cautionary tale whispered in hushed tones, a place lost in the sinister embrace of the unknown. And the enigma of the vanishing persisted, a macabre legacy etched into the annals of a forgotten town, where echoes of life dissolved into the abyss. Months passed, and the narrative of Oak Ridge's vanishing faded into the periphery of neighboring towns' conversations. It became a cautionary tale, a chilling fable parents whispered to their children as a reminder of the fragility of reality. Despite the town's desolation, the mystery lingered like an unspoken curse. People avoided Oak Ridge, believing it to be cursed, an echo chamber of the supernatural. The government declared the town off-limits, citing an unexplained phenomenon as grounds for quarantine. However, among the whispered tales of the town's demise, a shadowy figure emerged from the depths of obscurity. Dr. Evelyn Pierce, a brilliant but unconventional scientist specializing in the study of quantum anomalies, became fixated on Oak Ridge's inexplicable vanishing. Driven by a relentless thirst for truth, Dr. Pierce defied warnings and clandestinely ventured into the forbidden town. Armed with an array of specialized equipment and a mind unshackled by conventional reasoning, she sought to decipher the enigma that had eluded understanding. The once thriving streets of Oak Ridge were now draped in silence, a surreal stillness that clung to the buildings like a shroud. Dr. Pierce navigated cautiously, her steps echoing off the hollow facades of abandoned homes. Her investigation led her to the decrepit barn on the outskirts, the epicenter of the mystery. Despite the palpable sense of worry, Dr. Pierce pressed forward, her determination a beacon in the suffocating darkness. Inside the barn, she encountered remnants of Detective Carter's presence, scattered files, a broken flashlight, and the cryptic symbols etched upon the weathered altar. Dr. Pierce meticulously cataloged every detail, her scientific curiosity fueled by an insatiable desire to unravel the inexplicable. As she meticulously examined the symbols, a sudden resonance reverberated through the air, a dissonant frequency that reverberated in her bones. A surge of energy crackled through the barn, distorting the fabric of reality itself. The symbols glowed with an ethereal luminescence, casting an otherworldly hue upon the surroundings. Dr. Pierce's breath hitched as she realized the symbols weren't merely markings. They were a conduit, a gateway to an unknown realm beyond comprehension. In a reckless bid to unveil the truth, she activated a device designed to analyze the anomalies. The barn quaked, the air pulsating with an otherworldly resonance that transcended the boundaries of human comprehension. Reality fractured. The barn, once an abandoned husk, transformed into a surreal nexus, a convergence of disparate dimensions. Dr. Pierce's surroundings warped and twisted, a kaleidoscope of fractured realities coalescing into a mind-bending panorama. Time lost its semblance, folding and contorting upon itself. Dr. Pierce, ensnared in the maelstrom, witnessed echoes of Oak Ridge's vanished denizens, their spectral visages flickering like distant stars in an immeasurable void. In that moment of fractured existence, she glimpsed the truth. The vanishing wasn't a mere disappearance. It was a transcendence. Oak Ridge had become a fractured locus, a confluence where reality unraveled and souls transcended mortal constraints. Amidst the chaos, Dr. Pierce's consciousness teetered on the precipice of comprehension and madness. She yearned to unravel the enigma, yet the sheer enormity of the revelation threatened to devour her sanity. As swiftly as it began, the cataclysmic event reached its crescendo, and then silence. Dr. Evelyn Pierce, a lone sentinel in the turbulent sea of fractured realities, became another enigmatic fragment in the tapestry of Oak Ridge's vanishing. Her existence blurred into the ether, a fleeting anomaly lost in the labyrinth of dimensions. And Oak Ridge, a town lost to the annals of existence, remained a haunting reminder of the unfathomable mysteries that lurk at the edges of human understanding, where the veil of reality trembles and echoes fade into the cosmic abyss. Story 2. In the heart of the Appalachian Mountains nestled an old, weathered cabin shrouded in mystery and tales of sinister happenings. It stood isolated, embraced by the dense foliage that whispered secrets of generations past. The cabin's desolation had earned it a reputation among locals as a place of unspoken dread. Among the curious wanderers was Emily, an adventurous soul who sought solace in the serene beauty of nature. Drawn by tales of the forgotten cabin's haunting aura, she embarked on a solo journey into the depths of the Appalachian wilderness. As Emily ventured deeper into the labyrinth of trees, a sense of isolation enveloped her. The sun cast elongated shadows across the forest floor, creating an ominous path that led her to the elusive cabin. Upon arrival, the cabin appeared as though frozen in time. Its wooden panels weathered by time and neglect, windows boarded up as if concealing a cryptic history. The air crackled with an unsettling energy, sending goosebumps along Emily's skin. Determined to unravel the mysteries shrouding the cabin, Emily cautiously stepped inside. The interior was a time capsule, an abandoned sanctuary of forgotten memories. Dust danced in the rays of light that filtered through cracks in the boarded-up windows. Despite the ambiance, Emily found herself inexplicably drawn to the cabin's haunting beauty. She set up camp inside, hoping to unearth the secrets it held. As night descended upon the wilderness, a chilling silence enveloped the cabin. Emily lit a solitary lantern, casting dim, flickering shadows that danced upon the walls. The hours ticked by, the silence disrupted only by the occasional rustling of leaves outside. Emily's attempts to uncover the cabin's mysteries proved futile, and a sense of unease gnawed at her thoughts. Just as she settled into a fitful sleep, an unsettling noise echoed through the cabin, a faint, rhythmic tapping against the window. Emily's eyes shot open, her heart pounding in her chest. She dismissed it as the wind or a curious animal, attempting to quell her rising unease. Yet the tapping persisted, growing louder with each passing moment. It transformed into an incessant, deliberate rapping against the window pane. Summoning courage, she cautiously approached the window. What she saw froze her blood in terror. Silhouetted against the moonlit forest stood a figure, its face obscured by the darkness, rhythmically tapping a long, gnarled finger against the glass. Fear clenched Emily's throat as she stumbled backward, her mind racing with inexplicable terror. The figure continued its haunting rhythm, its presence an unsettling harbinger of unknown horrors. Torn between fleeing and confronting the inexplicable entity, Emily's resolve wavered. She sought refuge by the fireplace, clutching the lantern as her only source of solace in the encroaching darkness. As the night dragged on, the cabin seemed to echo with malevolent whispers, the walls reverberating with unheard murmurs that pierced the silence. Emily's terror grew, a suffocating grip tightening around her chest. Then a sudden change. The tapping ceased, plunging the cabin into an alarming stillness. Emily's heart raced, her senses on high alert, as a bone-chilling silence enveloped the cabin, more ominous than any sound. Just as she dared to hope for an end to the haunting ordeal, a disembodied voice echoed from the shadows, and dark whisper that pierced through the darkness, chilling her to the core. "Leave this place, Emily. You are not welcome here." The voice resonated with an otherworldly quality, laced with a warning that reverberated through her very soul. Panic seized Emily as she realized she was not alone in the desolate cabin. Dread washed over her, an insidious realization that she had stumbled upon something beyond comprehension. In a desperate bid to escape the encroaching malevolence, Emily bolted toward the cabin door, her heart racing with frantic fear. But the door remained stubbornly sealed shut, refusing her escape, as if the cabin itself conspired to keep her captive within its walls. The haunting whispers grew louder, an invisible force pressing upon her, suffocating her will to resist. Shadows danced maniacally across the walls, contorting into grotesque shapes that taunted her sanity. As Emily grappled with her terror, a bone-chilling realization dawned upon her. She had unwittingly trespassed into a realm beyond understanding, a domain bound by malevolent forces that defied human comprehension. In a last desperate attempt to break free, Emily unleashed a blood-curdling scream that echoed through the desolate forest. But her cries were swallowed by the suffocating silence, leaving her at the mercy of the sinister entity that lurked within the forgotten cabin's walls. And so, Emily became another haunting tale whispered among the locals, a cautionary reminder of the forgotten cabin's unspoken horrors. Forever lost to the depths of the Appalachian wilderness, Emily's panicked screams reverberated through the desolate forest, swallowed by an unforgiving silence. The cabin seemed to pulsate with a malevolent energy, its walls closing in on her, trapping her in an abyss of terror. As her voice faded into the night, Emily's mind raced with desperate thoughts. She frantically searched for a means of escape, her trembling fingers clawing at the boarded-up windows, hoping for a glimpse of the outside world. Yet the windows remained sealed, offering no respite from the chilling embrace of the cabin's claustrophobic confines. The silence became deafening, a tangible presence that suffocated her senses. Desperation coursed through Emily's veins as she scanned the room for any semblance of salvation. In a last-ditch effort, she frantically rifled through the cabin's decrepit belongings, seeking something, anything that might offer a way out. Amidst the aged belongings, she discovered an ancient journal, its leather-bound cover worn and weathered. With trembling hands, Emily flipped through its pages, hoping for answers buried within the faded ink. The journal belonged to a previous inhabitant of the cabin, chronicling unnerving accounts of unexplained occurrences, whispers in the night, strange apparitions, and a pervasive sense of dread that plagued the writer's every waking moment. In a chilling entry, the writer recounted a harrowing experience, a confrontation with an entity that dwelled within the cabin's walls. The entity, described as a malevolent spirit, trapped its victims in a nightmarish limbo, feeding on their fear and despair. Emily's breath hitched as she realized the chilling truth. She had stumbled upon a realm tethered to the spectral plane, a place where the boundaries between the living and the dead blurred. With a newfound sense of urgency, Emily clutched the journal to her chest, determined to defy the entity's grasp. She gathered her resolve, casting aside the paralyzing fear that threatened to consume her. As she prepared to confront the unseen malevolence, the cabin's atmosphere shifted. An icy chill swept through the air, and the flickering lantern dimmed to a mere whisper of light. Shadows danced frenetically across the walls, coalescing into grotesque shapes that loomed menacingly. Whispers echoed from the darkness, a chorus of tormented voices that clawed at Emily's sanity. With sheer determination, Emily uttered words of defiance, a shaky voice that reverberated with unwavering resolve. "I don't belong to this place. Release me from your grasp." Her words seemed to echo in the abyss, silencing the haunting whispers for a fleeting moment. The oppressive malevolence recoiled, a testament to Emily's unwavering courage. In that fleeting respite, a glimmer of hope ignited within her, a surge of determination to break free from the entity's sinister hold. She cast a desperate gaze toward the door, mustering every ounce of strength to challenge the spectral force that ensnared her. With a trembling hand, Emily reached for the doorknob, her heart pounding with frantic urgency. To her surprise, the door creaked open, revealing a faint glimpse of the moonlit forest beyond. A rush of exhilaration surged through her as she pushed against the force that held her captive. With every ounce of strength, she fought against the entity's malevolent grip, inching closer to the threshold of freedom. Just as she dared to hope for escape, a bone-chilling laugh echoed from the shadows, freezing her movements. The entity's sinister voice resounded through the cabin, a haunting reminder of its relentless power. "You will never leave, Emily. You belong to this place now." As the entity's laughter reverberated through the cabin, Emily's hope waned. She found herself trapped in a nightmarish limbo, the elusive freedom she sought slipping through her grasp. In a last act of defiance, she flung the journal out of the door, a desperate plea for someone to uncover the forgotten cabin's malevolent secrets. And so, the night consumed Emily, leaving her entwined in the haunting legacy of the forgotten cabin. A cautionary tale whispered among wanderers, forever lost to the depths of the Appalachian wilderness. Story 3. In the quiet suburban neighborhood of Elm Street, the house at number 64 stood like a monolith of mystery and intrigue. It was the residence of Mr. and Mrs. Wilson, an elderly couple who'd resided there for decades. Yet the air around their home bore an weird stillness that unsettled the neighbors. Among the residents was the Cunningham family, who lived next door. Alex Cunningham, an inquisitive teenager, noticed peculiarities surrounding the Wilsons. He observed Mr. Wilson's erratic behavior, the furtive glances, the hasty retreats indoors upon noticing neighbors, and the infrequent, creepy noises emanating from their residence. Curiosity gnawed at Alex's mind, and he confided in his parents about the unsettling occurrences. His father dismissed them as the quirks of aging neighbors, but Alex's instincts refused to relent. With his suspicions piqued, Alex embarked on a clandestine investigation. He kept a vigilant eye on the Wilsons, noting their peculiar habits and the palpable aura of secrecy surrounding their home. Days turned into weeks, and Alex's intrigue transformed into obsession. He staked out the Wilsons' house, studying their patterns and scrutinizing every minuscule detail, determined to uncover the truth. One fateful evening, as the moon cast a ghostly pallor over Elm Street, Alex noticed an unusual occurrence. The Wilsons, usually reclusive, appeared to be hurriedly loading boxes into their car, their faces etched with anxiety. Alex's heart raced as he seized the opportunity to delve deeper into the mystery. Under the veil of darkness, he stealthily crept toward the Wilsons' house. Cautiously peering through a partially open window, he glimpsed an unsettling sight. The interior was in disarray, the furniture overturned and the walls adorned with bizarre scribblings. Mr. Wilson seemed agitated, muttering to himself in a frenzied manner. His wife, Mrs. Wilson, appeared distressed, her eyes brimming with fear. Before Alex could discern more, a scream pierced the night, sending a cold rush down his back. The Wilsons abruptly vanished from sight, leaving the house cloaked in a silence. Determined to unravel the enigma, Alex decided to explore the abandoned Wilson residence the following day. With trepidation gnawing at his gut, he cautiously stepped over the threshold. The interior was a tapestry of chaos and inexplicable symbols etched into the walls, a cryptic language of madness. As Alex ventured deeper into the house's belly, a sense of fear enveloped him. A disquieting revelation awaited him in the basement. An ancient-looking tome lay open, its pages adorned with peculiar runes and esoteric diagrams. As he deciphered the cryptic writings, an ominous realization dawned upon him. The Wilsons had been involved in unsettling occult practices. A sudden gust of wind extinguished the basement light, plunging Alex into suffocating darkness. Panic gripped him as he fumbled for his flashlight, the silence deafening in the absence of sound. Whispers echoed from the shadows, ethereal murmurs that seeped into Alex's consciousness. A malevolent presence materialized, a grotesque manifestation of his worst nightmares. Before he could react, an unseen force propelled Alex backward, slamming him against the wall. His screams echoed, drowned in the abyss of malevolence that enveloped him. And in that harrowing moment, the house at 64 Elm Street devoured its final victim, leaving behind an echoing silence that reverberated through the neighborhood, a chilling testament to the disturbing secrets hidden behind closed doors. In the bustling city of Millbrook, Claire, a young professional, enjoyed a routine life until a series of unnerving phone calls disrupted her tranquility. It all began innocuously, muffled breathing and faint static noises followed by an abrupt disconnection. Claire dismissed it as a glitch in the line, attributing it to the city's erratic phone services. As the days passed, the calls persisted, escalating in frequency and intensity. A scary discomfort settled within Claire, an unspoken fear that lingered long after each unsettling interaction. The weird caller remained enigmatic, concealing their identity behind the veil of silence. No discernible voice or coherent words, just an unsettling symphony of static and indistinct breathing that creeped Claire out. Determined to quell her rising apprehension, Claire sought solace in rational explanations, faulty connections, anonymous pranks, or an overactive imagination. Yet the persistent dread gnawed at her sanity. She confided in her friends seeking reassurance, but their dismissals only fueled her escalating paranoia. Alone in her apartment, the phone became an instrument of terror, its ring inducing a sense of dread that echoed through her existence. Claire's once peaceful routine crumbled under the weight of relentless anticipation. Every ring of the phone pierced her tranquility, a harbinger of the unnerving calls that spiraled into a haunting obsession. Desperate for reprieve, Claire sought refuge in the police, hoping for intervention. But without a discernible threat or coherent message, her pleas fell on deaf ears, leaving her entangled in an enigma she couldn't comprehend. Nights grew unbearable as sleep eluded her. The persistent dread of the next call lingered, a specter haunting her waking moments and encroaching upon her dreams. In a fateful twist, the calls took an ominous turn. Bizarre whispers replaced the customary silence. Vague murmurs emerged from the static, elusive words that taunted her sanity. Claire's unraveling became apparent to those around her. Her once vibrant demeanor faded into a shadow of anxiety and paranoia, a haunting reminder of the unnerving calls that plagued her existence. Determined to regain control, Claire embarked on a relentless quest for answers. She delved into archives, scouring records for any semblance of clues, but the enigmatic caller remained elusive. As her pursuit intensified, so did the sinister nature of the calls. The whispers evolved into menacing threats, strange warnings that echoed through the receiver, each call plunging Claire deeper into a nightmarish abyss. Haunted by the enigmatic caller's elusive threats, Claire's reality blurred between delusion and terror. Every passing moment became a nerve-wracking ordeal, her once familiar world overshadowed by an ever-present sense of foreboding. In an alarming crescendo, the caller's final message shattered Claire's fragile reality. A chillingly familiar voice whispered, "I'm closer than you think." Panic seized her, rendering her world into a kaleidoscope of fear and desperation. With trembling hands, she unplugged the phone, hoping to sever the connection to the haunting caller. But as the silence enveloped her apartment and terrifying realization dawned, footsteps echoed from within her own home. Claire's blood ran cold as she realized the haunting words had been a terrifying truth all along. The caller had been inside her home, lurking in the shadows, closer than she could have ever imagined. The dark revelation of the caller being inside her home froze Claire in terror. Her breath hitched, heart pounding violently against her chest as a cold sweat dampened her skin. Panic surged through her veins, urging her to flee, but fear had rooted her to the spot. Silence draped over the apartment, thick and suffocating. Every creak, every whisper of movement amplified, resonating with malevolence. The once familiar space now seemed foreign, haunted by the specter of an unknown assailant. With trembling hands, Claire fumbled for her cell phone, her lifeline to the outside world. She dialed emergency services, her voice quivering as she whispered frantic pleas for help, detailing the unnerving calls and the chilling realization of the intruder's presence. The dispatcher's voice offered a semblance of reassurance amidst Claire's mounting terror. She held her breath, straining to listen for any indication of the intruder's movements, her heart pounding in sync with each passing second. Minutes stretched into an eternity as Claire awaited the arrival of the authorities. Every shadow morphed into a potential threat, each creak of the floorboards a harbinger of impending danger. Footsteps echoed from the hallway, drawing nearer with ominous intent. Claire's chest tightened, her pulse thundering in her ears as the sound of her own heartbeat drowned out rational thought. The apartment door burst open, flooding the room with blinding light, and uniformed officers rushed in, their reassuring presence a brief respite from the terror. They scoured the apartment, finding no sign of the intruder. As the officers conducted their investigation, Claire's shaken state intensified. She recounted the series of unsettling calls, the escalating threats, and the bone-chilling realization of the caller's proximity. Despite her distress, the officers found no evidence of forced entry or any indication of the mysterious caller's presence. Claire's recounting of the disturbing events bore the mark of genuine fear. But without tangible proof, her claims were met with skepticism. Hours dragged by, the officers concluding that it might have been a prank call or a case of paranoia induced by stress. Claire felt a sinking despair as their dismissive stance left her vulnerable and terrified, trapped in a reality tainted by the unknown. Alone once more, Claire sought refuge in the solace of a friend's apartment. Sleep evaded her, the echoes of the caller's haunting words resonating in her mind, a sinister reminder of the intruder's malevolent presence. Days became nights of restless anxiety. Claire's once vibrant spirit withered under the weight of relentless dread. She attempted to resume her routine, but the specter of fear loomed over every moment, casting shadows of suspicion and paranoia. The menacing calls ceased, leaving Claire in a silence that offered no solace. Her world had become a labyrinth of apprehension, every shadow a potential threat, every sound a haunting echo of the past. Her friends' concern grew palpable as Claire's mental state deteriorated. They urged her to seek professional help, fearing the toll the harrowing experience had taken on her well-being. Therapy sessions offered temporary relief, a sanctuary where Claire found respite in recounting her ordeal. The therapist's reassurances were a flicker of hope amidst the darkness, but the specter of the caller's intrusion lingered, an unresolved enigma that tormented her psyche. Weeks turned into months, and Claire attempted to rebuild her shattered life. She moved to a new apartment, hoping for a fresh start, yet the haunting memory of the intrusion lingered like an unshakable shadow. Her vigilance became her constant companion, an ever-present reminder of the vulnerability that had once shattered her sense of security. Every ringing phone, every unexpected noise reignited the dormant fear, threatening to plunge her back into the abyss of terror. In a twist of fate, one fateful evening as Claire settled into her new sanctuary, a familiar vibration stirred from her phone. A number she hadn't seen in months flashed on the screen. Her heart lurched with dread, the numbing fear resurfacing as she stared at the screen in disbelief. The phone rang, each ring echoing like a death knell, a haunting reminder of the unresolved terror that had tormented her life. Trembling, Claire hesitated before answering, her voice barely above a whisper. She hoped for closure, an end to the lingering nightmare that had plagued her existence. "Hello, Claire," a chillingly familiar voice hissed from the other end. "I told you I was closer than you think." A paralyzing terror gripped Claire, her breath catching in her throat. Before she could react, the line went dead, leaving behind an unsettling silence that echoed with malevolence. In that horrifying moment, Claire realized that the caller's insidious presence hadn't vanished. It lingered, an inescapable specter lurking within the shadows, an eternal reminder of the scary intrusion that had forever tainted her life. And so Claire's fate became a haunting tale whispered among those who had known her, a tragic narrative of unending fear, a legacy born from the enigmatic caller's insidious torment. Story 2. In the quaint town of Brooksville, nestled amidst rolling hills and meandering roads, an old tale lingered in the whispers of locals, the legend of the vanishing hitchhiker. For Peter, a journalist known for his insatiable curiosity, this local lore became a puzzle he was determined to solve. The story had captivated his attention, weaving its enigmatic threads into the fabric of his thoughts. Seeking answers, Peter scoured through archives, interviewed residents, and roamed the back roads, hoping to unearth the truth behind the mysterious vanishing hitchhiker. On a moonlit evening, while navigating the quiet stretches of highway on the outskirts of Brooksville, Peter's eyes caught a glimpse of a solitary figure standing at the roadside. A young woman draped in darkness, her silhouette echoing the description of the elusive hitchhiker from the town's folklore. Curiosity mingled with caution as Peter slowed his car to a stop. He pondered the legend's warnings, cautioning against giving the hitchhiker a ride. But the allure of unraveling the mystery outweighed his apprehensions. The woman, introducing herself as Rachel, possessed an air of melancholy that intrigued Peter. Her eyes held a depth of sorrow, a hidden story yearning to be unraveled. Engaging in conversation, Rachel spoke in cryptic phrases, alluding to a haunting past and a yearning for closure. As they journeyed along the darkened roads, Rachel's demeanor shifted. A palpable tension clouded the atmosphere. She cast furtive glances as if expecting someone to emerge from the shadows behind them, an unspoken urgency permeating her movements. Peter's unease heightened, a sense of foreboding settling in his gut. He probed Rachel with gentle persistence, hoping to unearth the truth concealed within her cryptic narrative. Suddenly, Rachel demanded Peter to halt the car at an isolated spot, insisting it was near her intended destination. The location mirrored the bizarre settings of the legend, an isolated stretch of road immersed in an unsettling silence. A sense of déjà vu washed over Peter, a realization that they stood at the crossroads between myth and reality. Rachel's departure felt unnervingly similar to the legend's account, a hitchhiker vanishing into the night. Peter's journalistic curiosity wrestled against his apprehensions. Torn between investigating further and yielding to superstition, he grappled with conflicting instincts. Resolving to quench his insatiable quest for truth, Peter stepped out of the car, cautiously scanning the desolate surroundings. The silence was deafening, the darkness suffocating, and an unspoken fear clawed at his rationality. As he scanned the vicinity, a whisper lingered in the air, a disembodied voice that seemed to echo from the shadows. Beware the road less traveled. The hair on Peter's neck stood on end, his heart racing with an inexplicable dread. A primal instinct urged him to retreat, but the allure of uncovering the truth propelled him forward. In a desperate search for answers, Peter ventured deeper into the darkness, his footsteps echoing against the silent road. The night seemed to thicken around him, an ominous cloak veiling the truth he so fervently pursued. Suddenly, a bone-chilling sensation coursed through Peter's veins, an unsettling feeling of being watched. His breath hitched, senses on high alert, as he turned to head back to his car. But the darkness had intensified, the surroundings unfamiliar, as if the landscape had shifted in his absence. Panic seeped into his consciousness, and a realization dawned upon him. Peter was lost in an unrecognizable labyrinth of roads that seemed to twist and turn, defying logic and reason. With every step, the sense of disorientation grew, a disconcerting feeling of being ensnared in an inexplicable maze. The whispers of the legend echoed hauntingly in his mind, intertwining with the enigmatic warning. The road less traveled held secrets that defied comprehension. A glimmer of light appeared in the distance, offering a beacon of hope amidst the engulfing darkness. Peter hastened toward it, his heart pounding with the anticipation of salvation from the unsettling labyrinth. But as he approached, the light revealed an abandoned, creepy house, a broken-down structure nestled at the crossroads of the desolate roads. The air hung heavy with an odd silence that pierced Peter's soul. Unease crept over him, an instinctual apprehension warning against venturing closer. Yet an irresistible pull egged him on, compelling him to explore the decrepit abode that stood as a haunting sentinel in the desolate night. Every creak of the decaying structure echoed like a haunting whisper, a prelude to the dark climax of the enigmatic legend. Peter's breaths came in shallow gasps, his senses on high alert as he cautiously stepped onto the porch. The floorboards groaned under his weight, the dilapidated structure groaning in protest against the intrusion. A palpable tension saturated the air, as if the house itself harbored a malevolent secret. In the silence, a sense of impending horror loomed over Peter, an insidious realization that the legend might not merely be a tale woven from folklore. Every shadow seemed to morph into a spectral presence, every rustle an omen of terror. A sudden gust of wind howled through the broken windows, stirring the silence into a cacophony of unsettling whispers. Peter's heart pounded in his chest, the whispers reverberating like a haunting melody that resonated with the unexplained. In that moment, an abrupt silence enveloped the desolate house, a deafening absence of sound that amplified Peter's dread. Shadows danced ominously, coalescing into grotesque apparitions that encroached upon his sanity. A primal fear gripped Peter as a realization dawned. The enigmatic legend held a sinister truth that surpassed rational comprehension. The whispers transformed into a ghostly symphony, a haunting crescendo of terror that shattered the fragile veil between reality and myth. In the end, a haunting figure materialized from the shadows, a spectral presence that embodied the essence of the vanishing hitchhiker. Peter's terrified gaze locked onto the apparition, a silent witness to the inexplicable convergence of the legend with the fabric of reality. The spectral figure seemed to transcend the boundaries of the physical realm, a haunting embodiment of the enigmatic hitchhiker who had vanished into the night. Its ethereal form exuded in strange aura, a haunting reminder that some mysteries were not meant to be unraveled. And in that harrowing moment, Peter's fate became entangled with the haunting legend, leaving behind a legacy of fear that would forever echo through the darkened roads and silent whispers of Brooksville, a tale of curiosity leading to a horrifying encounter with the unexplained. Story 3. In the heart of Crestview, Emily Foster's once peaceful life spiraled into a harrowing nightmare. It all began with subtle, unnoticeable occurrences, tiny ripples in the fabric of her reality that culminated into a crescendo of fear. The uneasy feeling of being watched had become a constant companion, an ever-present shadow that lingered in Emily's periphery. She attempted to rationalize these unsettling sensations, a trick of the mind, the stress of an overburdened life, but the gnawing discomfort persisted. As the weeks progressed, Emily's unease escalated. Her apartment, once a sanctuary, transformed into a battleground of apprehension. Strange anomalies plagued her, a picture frame askew, a misplaced trinket, and dark testament to the intruder's unseen presence. Desperate to dispel her growing paranoia, Emily confided in her friends and family. Their initial concern turned to skepticism, attributing her fears to stress-induced paranoia or the overactive imagination of an isolated mind. Her attempts to seek aid from the authorities yielded equally fruitless results. Without tangible evidence or a discernible threat, Emily's concerns were met with polite assurances but no tangible resolution, leaving her ensnared in the clutches of her escalating terror. Nights descended into a haunting ritual of sleepless torment. Every shadow in her apartment morphed into sinister omens, every creak of the floorboards a harbinger of impending dread. Sleep eluded her, replaced by endless hours of restless vigilance. The city's bustling streets offered no respite from the suffocating sensation of being followed. Each glance over her shoulder revealed nothing out of the ordinary, yet the relentless feeling of an unseen presence persisted, a disconcerting reality that cast a shadow over her daily life. Seeking solace in the mundane, Emily buried herself in her work, hoping to escape the tendrils of fear that coiled around her existence. But even in the sanctity of her professional endeavors, the feeling of being watched followed, an unwelcome companion that lurked just beyond the realm of perception. Every trivial noise, an unexpected click, a rustling breeze, sent tremors of fear rippling through her fragile composure. The once familiar environment of her apartment became a labyrinth of fear, a place where her sanity teetered on the edge of an unsettling abyss. With a fervent determination to reclaim control, Emily installed security cameras throughout her apartment, a desperate attempt to capture proof of the elusive stalker's intrusion. She scrutinized the footage obsessively, hoping for validation, yet the recordings offered nothing substantial. An uneventful loop of mundane existence, devoid of any sign of the elusive presence that tormented her. As the days bled into nights and the haunting sensation of being watched intensified, Emily's world narrowed into a suffocating bubble of fear. She became hypervigilant, her every waking moment consumed by the relentless pursuit of an unseen entity. Then, one ominous evening while immersed in her work, a strange revelation halted Emily in her tracks. An ominous figure, shrouded in darkness, looming just beyond her apartment window. Panic surged through Emily's veins, a heart-pounding realization that her fears had materialized. Summoning every ounce of courage, she approached the window, her hand trembling as it reached for the curtains. Drawing the curtains aside, she braced herself for the alarming confrontation, but the space outside lay vacant. The menacing figure had dissolved into the night, leaving behind an unsettling void that deepened Emily's sense of dread. The encounter rattled Emily's fragile reality. The creepy presence that had haunted her existence had briefly revealed itself, only to vanish into the enigmatic shadows, leaving behind a palpable aura of malevolence. In the aftermath of this unsettling encounter, Emily's world crumbled, her sense of security shattered by an elusive stalker that lurked beyond the veil of perception. With every passing moment, the unexplained nature of her tormentor's pursuit seemed to deepen her entanglement in an unending cycle of fear and uncertainty. Haunted by the realization that some terrors existed beyond the reach of sight, Emily found herself trapped in a nightmarish existence, forever haunted by an unseen stalker an enigmatic presence forever entwined with her harrowing reality. The Crimson Research Institute stood as a monolith amidst the bustling city, a beacon of scientific exploration veiled in mystery. Dr. Sarah Miller, a luminary in the realm of sleep research, embarked on an audacious venture to unlock the enigmatic depths of hypnagogic states, a realm where the boundaries between wakefulness and slumber blurred. Volunteers, lured by the allure of scientific discovery and monetary compensation, flocked to enroll in the groundbreaking study. Among them, Emily, a graduate student seeking respite from financial constraints, stepped forward, curious but unaware of the haunting trajectory her participation would take. The laboratory, a hushed sanctuary adorned with intricate machinery and faint lighting, served as the stage for the audacious experiment. Emily reclined upon the bed, surrounded by a labyrinth of wires and electrodes, while Dr. Miller meticulously monitored the EEG readings from the adjoining control room. As the sun relinquished its reign to the night, Emily embarked on the intrepid odyssey into the hypnagogic state, a liminal realm where reality was painted in the hues of dreams. Initially benign, her dreams manifested as fragmented glimpses, a hodgepodge of fleeting scenes intertwined with a lurking unease. Minutes dissolved into hours as Emily's consciousness navigated the labyrinthine corridors of her subconscious. Her dreamscape morphed into a surreal tapestry, a twilight realm woven with strands of her deepest fears and latent anxieties. Shadows danced on the periphery, their spectral forms coalescing into ominous apparitions that unsettled her soul. In the monitoring room, Dr. Miller scrutinized the EEG readings with clinical precision, observing subtle oscillations in Emily's brainwave patterns, a testament to the kaleidoscopic shifts in her subconscious terrain. An unexpected spike in neural activity prompted a discreet alarm within the vigilant researcher. Within Emily's subconscious domain, an intangible darkness coalesced, an abstract entity pulsating with an ominous energy. Its spectral presence cast an oppressive veil over her dreamscape, inducing an inexplicable sense of unease. The fragile boundary between reality and reverie blurred, hurling Emily into a nightmarish tableau, a labyrinthine realm bereft of escape. Grotesque visions assailed her senses, an amalgamation of haunting whispers, surreal apparitions, and an imminent sense of dread. Struggling against the nightmarish miasma, Emily's subconscious waged an arduous battle against the malicious entity's relentless grip. Yet her attempts to sever the ethereal shackles proved futile, ensnared within the convoluted machinations of her own mind. In the monitoring room, Dr. Miller wrestled with ethical restraint as Emily's distress intensified. The experimental protocol imposed a stringent non-intervention policy until the experiment's designated conclusion, testing the boundaries of the researcher's professional discretion. With a heavy heart, Dr. Miller reluctantly initiated the awakening protocol, a calculated surge of stimuli intended to wrench Emily from the clutches of the evil dreamscape. Emily's eyes flew open, her body convulsing as she jolted upright, forcibly yanked from the strange reverie. Gasping for air, disoriented and trembling, her terror-stricken gaze met Dr. Miller's concerned eyes through the observation window. As the electrodes were delicately detached, Emily struggled to articulate her harrowing ordeal, an incomprehensible terror that lingered at the edge of her consciousness. Her trauma, a haunting residue of the experiment, carved a sinister imprint that refused to dissipate. Days stretched into endless nights, yet Emily remained ensnared by fragments of the evil dreamscape, a psychological wound etched into the fabric of her mind. The experiment, transcending the boundaries of scientific inquiry, had thrust Emily into a harrowing labyrinth from which she could not liberate herself, an insidious menace forever etched within the recesses of her consciousness. In the aftermath, Emily's nights were tormented by fragmented visions, haunting echoes of the malevolent dreamscape. The sanctuary of sleep became a treacherous abyss, a realm where the spectral evil lurked, perpetuating an unending cycle of torment. Despite seeking solace in therapy and counseling, the spectral entity's haunting grip remained unrelenting. Emily grappled with the ephemeral line between reality and the remnants of her subconscious nightmares, forever haunted by the ethereal evil unleashed within the confines of the Crimson Research Institute. The desolation of her sleepless nights cast a pall over Emily's life, robbing her of tranquility and peace of mind. Every moment was shadowed by the spectral remnants of the experiment, a haunting ordeal that lingered as a constant reminder of the unfathomable depths of the human mind and the terrors that lay within. Story 2. Nestled amidst the undulating hills, the Whispering Inn stood as a sentinel of antiquity, its aged facade whispering tales of the past. As the storm raged on, 3 weary travelers sought refuge within its time-worn walls. Sophia, the intrepid journalist yearning for respite from relentless investigations, found herself drawn to the inn's enigmatic aura. William, the retired professor, harbored an insatiable curiosity that compelled him to seek shelter within its mysterious confines. Ethan, the wandering artist captivated by the inn's haunting allure, sought inspiration in its history. The travelers were greeted by the innkeeper, Mr. Graves, a stoic figure with a penetrating gaze that seemed to pierce through the veils of time. Despite his genial facade, an underlying reserve simmered beneath his composed demeanor, hinting at deeper, untold mysteries. The inn's interior exuded a quaint charm, a rustic parlor adorned with faded tapestries, antique furnishings, and a fireplace crackling with warmth. But an unsettling tension hung in the air, an ominous dread that tugged at the edges of the traveler's consciousness. As the night deepened, each traveler retired to their rooms, unaware of the inn's sordid history, a tapestry woven with vanishing guests and inexplicable occurrences that stained the inn's legacy. Sophia, her investigative instincts piqued by the inn's reputation, delved into the town's archives. Ancient records unveiled tales of Mr. Graves' ancestors, innkeepers whose names echoed through the annals of time, each entwined in a dark legacy of unexplained disappearances and dark phenomena that plagued the inn. Driven by curiosity, Sophia ventured into the hallways, drawn by the ethereal whispers that stirred in the dead of night. As she navigated the corridors, an inexplicable force guided her steps toward the heart of the inn. There, in the flickering shadows, she caught a glimpse of Mr. Graves, a spectral figure bathed in a mystic glow, murmuring incantations that resonated through the hallowed halls. Bewildered yet resolute, Sophia clandestinely observed his arcane rituals, tracing cryptic symbols etched into the inn's ancient foundations. Meanwhile, William, roused from his slumber by the unsettling whispers, sought solace in his scholarly pursuits. His diligent research unfurled a tangled web, a cryptic connection between Mr. Graves' lineage and the enigmatic disappearances of the inn's transient guests, forming a pattern that transcended generations. Ethan, the artist, captivated by the ambience, sought to capture the inn's haunting allure on canvas. His brushstrokes mirrored the spectral whispers that echoed through the corridors, each stroke a reflection of the inn's ethereal essence. As dawn approached, the travelers convened, their discoveries interwoven into a haunting tapestry of revelations. Their inquiries led to an alarming confrontation with Mr. Graves, whose steely gaze hinted at a darkness lurking within. In a scary confession, Mr. Graves divulged the innkeeper's ancestral ties to esoteric practices, dark rituals interwoven into the inn's very fabric. He revealed an ancient pact, forged generations ago, binding his lineage to perpetuate the enigmatic occurrences that plagued the Whispering Inn. The travelers' apprehension peaked as they realized their perilous predicament, trapped within the inn's insidious web, destined to become mere vessels for an unholy pact forged in antiquity. Despite their attempts to flee, the inn's spectral influence thwarted their escape, binding them to the dark legacy. As night descended once more, the travelers found themselves ensnared in a macabre ritual, a fate sealed by the inn's ancient curse. Their essence became conduits, vessels for a dreamy force that pulsed within the inn's walls. The spectral whispers grew in intensity, resonating with the sinister incantations echoing through the halls. Desperate, the travelers sought to unravel the pact's grip, their minds entwined in a struggle against an unseen force that transcended the physical realm. But the inn's ethereal embrace tightened, its dark tendrils ensnaring their very souls. Their screams merged with the haunting whispers, echoing through the corridors, lost to the annals of time, a testament to the unfathomable depths of the Whispering Inn and the inescapable fate that awaited those who dared to seek shelter within its haunted embrace. Story 3. Birchwood Grove held an enigmatic charm. But beneath its serene facade lay the Donovan family, once the epitome of suburban bliss, now ensnared by a haunting truth veiled in shadows. Emily's vanishing reverberated through the tight-knit community, its ripples unfurling into a tapestry of unanswered questions and palpable unease. The Donovan household, once resonant with laughter and warmth, now echoed with an ominous silence. Detective Marcus Hayes, renowned for his astute investigations, found himself entangled in the intricate threads of the Donovan family's secrets. Each passing day brought a heavier burden as the elusive truth eluded his grasp, a constant reminder of the enigmatic case. Helen Donovan, once a paragon of grace and strength, crumbled beneath the weight of uncertainty. Behind closed doors, she grappled with tormenting questions that gnawed at her soul. Her anguish surfaced in sleepless nights haunted by fragmented memories and whispered regrets, a labyrinth of emotions she dared not confront. David Donovan, known for his affable demeanor, projected an illusion of normalcy despite the turmoil brewing within. His stoic facade concealed a turmoil rooted in an irrevocable decision made in the shadows of the past, a choice that threatened to unravel the family's carefully curated existence. Jake Donovan, Emily's younger brother, retreated into a silent realm, a realm of unspoken truths and pent-up emotions. His once vibrant spirit waned, consumed by the burden of knowledge he struggled to articulate, a haunting secret etched into his conscience. As Detective Hayes delved deeper, the tapestry of the Donovan family's history began to unravel. A tale woven with misgivings, concealed resentments, and a deeply buried incident clouded by shame. The tension within the household escalated, the fractures in familial relationships deepening, a palpable rift eroding the once solid foundation of the Donovan family. Unspoken grievances festering beneath the surface, threatening to implode with devastating consequences. Detective Hayes, relentless in his pursuit of truth, uncovered fragments of the family's past, a mosaic of darkness concealed beneath a thin veneer of normalcy. Hidden from prying eyes lay an event, a sinister occurrence that, if unearthed, threatened to shatter the Donovan family's fragile existence. In the quiet solitude of his office, Detective Hayes pieced together the chilling revelation, the connection between Emily's disappearance and a macabre event from the family's history. The unsettling truth gnawed at his consciousness, sending shivers down his spine. The haunting finale unraveled, a revelation that pierced through the facade of the Donovan family's suburban existence. Emily's vanishing was not a random act but a meticulously orchestrated event, a sacrificial pact forged in the depths of the family's darkest secret. Detective Hayes, haunted by the revelation, found himself standing at the precipice of a truth too horrifying to comprehend. The Donovan family's macabre pact, an act of unspeakable darkness, echoed through the corridors of the once happy home, forever tainted by a sinister truth buried beneath the veil of suburban normalcy. The investigation concluded, but the secrets unearthed in Birchwood Grove lingered, a haunting testament to the depths one family went to conceal the monstrous truth at its core. A truth lost to the winds of time, forever concealed within the sinister embrace of a tranquil suburbia. Birchwood Grove, with its winding lanes and peaceful facade, masked the enigma brewing within the Donovan household, a family ensnared in a labyrinth of secrets, each more than the last. Emily's disappearance cast a pall over the once harmonious neighborhood. The frantic search and relentless media attention engulfed the Donovan family in a whirlwind of despair. Detective Marcus Hayes, renowned for his unyielding pursuit of truth, shouldered the weight of the investigation, a daunting task complicated by the family's tightly guarded secrets. Helen Donovan, a pillar of resilience, weathered the storm of Emily's vanishing with a facade of stoic composure. Behind closed doors, however, she grappled with a storm of her own, a tempest of shattered memories and unanswered questions that haunted her nights, leaving her tormented and sleepless. David Donovan, a man known for his amiable nature, attempted to maintain an air of normalcy despite the turmoil festering beneath the surface. But the mask of tranquility he wore grew heavier with each passing day, weighed down by the shadow of an unspeakable past. Jake Donovan, Emily's younger brother, retreated into solitude, a silent bystander to the family's disarray. His once expressive eyes now mirrored a deep-rooted sorrow, concealing a truth he dared not voice, a haunting secret he carried like an anchor around his heart. As Detective Hayes peeled back the layers of the Donovan family's history, a harrowing narrative unraveled, a tale of shattered trust and hidden wounds. The dark undercurrents of the family's past lay obscured, entwined with an incident veiled in secrecy, a malignant event that cast a long shadow over their lives. Within the Donovan home, festering grievances festered, a silent discord that resonated in the strained conversations and the heavy atmosphere that pervaded the once happy abode. Unspoken words hung in the air like a dense fog, suffocating the familial bonds that once tethered them together. Detective Hayes navigated the maze of deceit, uncovering fragments of the family's darkest secret, a scary incident that hinted at a pact forged in desperation, obscured by layers of denial and shame. In the quiet solitude of his office, Hayes pieced together the chilling revelation, the link between Emily's inexplicable disappearance and a cryptic event buried within the Donovan family's history. The truth gripped his senses, sending a shiver down his spine as he realized the magnitude of the dark forces at play. The unsettling conclusion emerged, a revelation that pierced through the facade of suburban tranquility. Emily's vanishing was not an accident, but a calculated act, a sacrificial agreement forged within the murky depths of the Donovan family's most dreadful secret. As the investigation reached its culmination, Detective Hayes found himself standing at the precipice of a truth too horrifying to comprehend. The Donovan family's sinister pact, an act steeped in darkness, reverberated through the hallways of the once joyful home, forever tarnished by a sinister truth buried beneath the guise of normalcy. The investigation concluded, but the secrets unearthed in Birchwood Grove lingered, a haunting testament to the depths one family went to conceal a monstrous truth, a truth lost to the winds of time, forever concealed within the sinister embrace of a seemingly serene suburbia. The midsummer night settled over the suburban neighborhood like a shroud, casting elongated shadows across the neatly trimmed lawns and quiet streets. Emily, a seasoned babysitter known for her calm demeanor, settled in for the evening at the Johnsons' house. The Johnsons were attending a late anniversary dinner, leaving their two children, Lucy and Jake, under Emily's care. As the children were tucked into bed, Emily busied herself with homework while occasionally checking on the sleeping youngsters. A muffled ring from her phone startled her. Glancing at the screen, she frowned. An unknown number blinked back at her. Shrugging it off as a wrong number, she muted the ringer and returned to her studies. Minutes later, the phone vibrated again. Emily glanced at it, her curiosity piqued. Another call from the same unknown number. This time she answered cautiously. "Hello?" Silence greeted her on the other end. Frowning, she repeated her greeting, only to be met with continued silence. A cold feeling ran down her back, but she dismissed it as a prank call from some bored teenager. Resuming her tasks, Emily heard the phone ring again. She hesitated but answered once more. This time, a raspy voice whispered, "I can see you." Her breath hitched. "Who is this?" The line went dead. A cold sweat prickled Emily's skin as she scanned the house. The uneasy feeling lingered as she forced herself to believe it was just someone's idea of a sick joke. She convinced herself to check the house thoroughly before alerting the authorities. She tiptoed from room to room, heart pounding in her chest. The unnerving quiet of the house magnified every creak of the floorboards. Emily's nerves were taut as she finished her search, finding nothing out of place. Just as she was about to return to her studies, the phone buzzed again. Trembling, she answered, her voice quivering. "Who's there?" The same silence followed until a guttural chuckle echoed through the line. "You won't find me. I'm much closer than you think." The terror clawed at Emily's throat. She stumbled backward, dropping the phone. Her mind raced, urging her to flee, but she couldn't leave the children alone. Adrenaline surged through her veins as she rushed to the children's room, intent on protecting them. But as she entered, she heard a voice, a low, sinister whisper, from beneath Lucy's bed. "You shouldn't have come here." Emily's blood ran cold. She spun around to see a shadowy figure emerging from the darkness, a twisted grin etched across their face. Panic surged, but she had to protect the children. Summoning her courage, Emily lunged toward the intruder, grappling with them in a frenzied struggle. The room echoed with desperate cries and the thud of bodies colliding against the walls. Amidst the chaos, Emily managed to wrestle the intruder to the ground. Gasping for breath, she turned on the light. Her blood ran icy. Lying on the floor was a deranged man, wild-eyed and grinning maniacally. His appearance was disheveled, and a glint of madness sparkled in his eyes. Suddenly, the police sirens blared outside, their flashing lights casting a glow into the room. With a final surge of strength, the intruder lunged at Emily, a glinting knife in his hand. The world spun. Emily's scream mingled with the shrill sound of the children's cries as the blade descended. The police burst through the door, but it was too late. They found Emily lying lifeless on the floor, a victim of a twisted stranger's madness. The police burst through the door, their boots thudding against the hardwood floor, but it was too late. They found Emily lying lifeless on the floor, a victim of a twisted stranger's madness. Her body was still warm, the scene a tableau of horror that would haunt the officers for years to come. The intruder lay motionless nearby, a grim reminder of the violent struggle that had unfolded in the once peaceful children's room. The children, Lucy and Jake, huddled together in a corner, tears streaming down their faces, their innocent eyes witnessing a nightmare no child should endure. Paramedics rushed in, but their efforts were futile. Emily's life had been ruthlessly snatched away, leaving a void in the hearts of those who knew her and a lingering sense of dread in the community. The investigation unfolded in the following days, revealing dark details. The intruder had been lurking within the house for hours, concealing himself expertly while tormenting Emily with menacing phone calls. He had carefully planned this macabre intrusion, preying upon the unsuspecting babysitter and the innocent children. As the news spread, the neighborhood was gripped by fear. Parents clutched their children closer, and whispers of safety precautions echoed through the streets. The Johnsons, devastated by the tragedy that unfolded in their home, grappled with guilt and sorrow. The police combed through evidence, piecing together the twisted motivations of the intruder. They discovered a history of mental illness and a string of past incidents that hinted at the perpetrator's escalating violence. However, it offered no solace to Emily's family or the traumatized children who had witnessed the horror firsthand. The community rallied in support, organizing vigils and fundraisers to honor Emily's memory and to aid the grieving family. The incident served as a wake-up call, prompting discussions on safety measures and the importance of vigilance, even in seemingly secure neighborhoods. Months passed, but the wounds remained fresh. The Johnsons moved away, unable to bear the haunting memories that lingered within the walls of their once happy home. Emily's legacy endured in the hearts of those who knew her, a beacon of kindness and warmth that the world had lost to senseless brutality. Her tragic fate stood as a stark reminder that evil often wore the guise of normalcy, lurking in the shadows, waiting for an opportunity to strike. Story 2. The town of Glenview nestled alongside a serene river, its waters shimmering under the moonlit sky. Yet a pall of fear had settled upon the community due to a series of unexplained drownings. Young men had been found dead in the river, each time marked by a graffiti of a sinister smiley face near the scene. Among the concerned townsfolk was Luke, a college student with an insatiable curiosity. The mysterious deaths had captured his attention, and he found himself drawn into investigating the incidents. Armed with a determination to uncover the truth, Luke delved into the strange circumstances. He combed through local archives and interviewed witnesses, hoping to unravel the perplexing sequence of events. His quest led him to discover that the victims had no apparent connections, leaving authorities baffled. However, a common thread emerged: the unmistakable graffiti of a grinning face, scrawled near the riverside where each tragic incident occurred. Luke's inquiries led him to a group of friends who were closely acquainted with the latest victim, Caleb. They spoke of a jovial young man, full of life, whose tragic demise remained a haunting mystery. Determined to dig deeper, Luke ventured alone to the riverbank, the moon casting an ethereal glow upon the rippling waters. As he examined the graffiti etched onto the nearby wall, a cold feeling struck him. The smiley face seemed to mock the darkness that lurked beneath the surface. Night after night, Luke returned to the riverside, hoping for a breakthrough. Each time, the sense of dread grew stronger, an ominous feeling that whispered of unseen danger lurking in the shadows. One fateful evening, as Luke lingered near the water's edge, a faint splash echoed in the stillness. He turned, his heart pounding, to behold a figure emerging from the depths of the river. The figure, shrouded in darkness, approached with an unhurried gait. A silence enveloped the scene, broken only by the gentle lapping of the river against the shore. Before Luke could react, the stranger stepped into the moonlight. His face bore an unsettling grin, mirroring the infamous graffiti that had haunted the town. "Curiosity leads to unfortunate ends," the stranger spoke in a voice that sent a jolt down Luke's spine. Terrified, Luke stumbled backward, his mind racing with fear and disbelief. He turned to flee, but his feet felt as heavy as stone. Panic clawed at his chest as he realized the sinister truth. He was face to face with the mysterious killer. In a swift, horrifying moment, Luke was plunged into the embrace of the river. The icy waters enveloped him, dragging him into the dark depths below. The moon bore witness to the scene, a solitary figure disappearing beneath the surface, leaving behind only ripples on the tranquil river. The following day, Luke's absence stirred concern among the townspeople. A search ensued along the riverbank, but no trace of him was found, save for a faintly drawn smiley face etched onto a nearby wall. The mystery deepened, leaving the town of Glenview haunted by the unexplained disappearances and the smiley faces that seemed to mock their efforts to uncover the truth. As Luke's disappearance echoed through Glenview, a ripple of fear surged within the community. The mystery of the smiley face killer deepened, casting a shadow of unease over the once tranquil town. Concerned whispers filled the air, and the local authorities redoubled their efforts to unravel the sinister puzzle that had claimed the lives of young men. Among those haunted by Luke's vanishing was his friend Sarah. She couldn't shake the feeling of guilt, believing she had unwittingly led Luke into danger by sharing their investigation findings. Determined to uncover the truth and honor Luke's memory, she delved into his notes and research. Sarah retraced Luke's steps, revisiting the riverside where he had last been seen. The moon's pale glow reflected off the calm waters, casting a luminescence across the scene. As she scrutinized the graffiti on the wall, a sense of unease struck her. The smiley face seemed to leer, an ominous presence marking the site of tragedy. Driven by both fear and resolve, Sarah continued her quest for answers. She sought solace in the stories of those who knew the victims, hoping to find a hidden connection that could shed light on the inexplicable deaths. Her investigation led her to an elderly man named Mr. Hastings, a longtime resident of Glenview known for his reclusive nature. Rumors hinted at his knowledge of the town's history, and Sarah believed he might hold clues to the elusive killer's identity. With cautious determination, Sarah visited Mr. Hastings at his secluded cottage on the outskirts of town. The elderly man greeted her with a mix of curiosity and apprehension, his eyes betraying a hidden sorrow that mirrored the town's unease. After gaining his trust, Sarah delicately broached the subject of the smiley face killer. To her surprise, Mr. Hastings' expression darkened and a tremor passed through his frail frame. He spoke in hushed tones, revealing fragments of a long-buried tale. Decades ago, Glenview had been a different place, its past cloaked in shadows of a tragic incident. Mr. Hastings recounted the story of a group of young friends, vibrant and carefree, whose lives were intertwined with the river's serenity. However, a series of unexplained drownings had shattered the town's peace. "There was darkness within the waters," Mr. Hastings murmured, his voice quivering with memories of bygone days. "Something dark that yearned for the souls of the innocent." Sarah's heart raced as Mr. Hastings unveiled an old journal, its weathered pages recounting occurrences that bore an uncanny resemblance to the recent deaths. The journal spoke of strange symbols etched near the river, symbols that mirrored the haunting smiley face graffiti found today. Driven by a desperate need for closure, Sarah pored over the journal's cryptic entries. Amidst the faded ink, she stumbled upon a strange passage, a ritual to appease the river's vengeful spirit, an ancient entity believed to exact retribution on those who dared to unravel its secrets. Doubt and fear gnawed at Sarah's resolve, but the need to honor Luke's memory outweighed her trepidation. Armed with newfound knowledge, she ventured back to the river, clutching the journal as her only guide. The moon hung low in the night sky as Sarah approached the water's edge, the faint murmur of the river an ominous backdrop. She hesitated, feeling an unseen force urging her to turn back. But the memory of Luke spurred her forward. With trembling hands, Sarah followed the journal's instructions, reciting the ancient incantation in a voice that wavered with uncertainty. A sense of dread loomed, the air thick with a strange anticipation. As the final words left her lips, the river stirred, its surface rippling with an otherworldly energy. A gust of wind swept through the air, carrying with it a guttural whisper. Suddenly, the water churned violently, and from its depths emerged a figure, a spectral apparition cloaked in shadows, bearing a grotesque semblance of a scary grin. Sarah's heart raced, terror coursing through her veins as the apparition materialized before her, its form twisted and ethereal. It bore an unmistakable resemblance to the smiley face, a spectral representation of the ancient entity that haunted Glenview's waters. In a moment of horrific realization, Sarah understood the truth. The smiley face wasn't the mark of a killer, but a warning, an ancient symbol guarding a vengeful spirit's domain. The apparition fixated its ghastly gaze upon her, an inscrutable expression etched upon its spectral visage. As fear immobilized her, the spirit extended an ephemeral hand toward Sarah, beckoning her toward the river's dark embrace. A bone-chilling scream pierced the night as Sarah's silhouette vanished into the swirling depths, swallowed by the river's ominous embrace. The moon bore witness to the harrowing event, a lone figure disappearing beneath the waters, leaving behind only ripples on the surface, a grim testament to the haunting legacy of Glenview's spectral guardian. Story 3. In the digital landscape of social media, Jenny found solace. An introvert by nature, she sought companionship through online forums, connecting with like-minded individuals who shared her interests in literature and art. Among her online acquaintances was a user named Eclipse23. Their interactions began innocently enough, a shared admiration for classic literature, discussions about favorite paintings, and the comfort of exchanging thoughts without the pressure of face-to-face encounters. Jenny found herself drawn to Eclipse23's captivating intellect and engaging conversations. As their online friendship blossomed, Eclipse23 shared tales of their life, a mysterious and compelling narrative that piqued Jenny's curiosity. Yet despite their frequent exchanges, Eclipse23 remained an enigma, refusing to divulge personal details or share any photos. Intrigued by the air of mystique surrounding Eclipse23, Jenny yearned to unravel the veiled identity behind the screen. Her initial trust waned, replaced by a growing unease, a nagging suspicion that Eclipse23 wasn't who they claimed to be. Despite her reservations, Jenny couldn't deny the pull of their online connection. She hesitated to confront Eclipse23, fearing the dissolution of the friendship that had become an integral part of her routine. One fateful evening, as the clock struck midnight, Eclipse23 sent an urgent message, a cryptic invitation to meet in person. Jenny's pulse quickened, torn between apprehension and an insatiable curiosity to unveil the mysterious persona behind the screen. Against her better judgment, Jenny agreed to the clandestine encounter, choosing a well-lit cafe nestled within the heart of the city for their meeting. Anxiety churned in her stomach as she waited, scanning the room for a glimpse of Eclipse23. A figure approached, cloaked in a dark hoodie, their face concealed beneath the shadows of the hood. The air crackled with tension as Eclipse23 slid into the seat opposite Jenny, the faint lighting obscuring their features. "Finally we meet," Eclipse23's voice resonated, laced with an unsettling undertone that made Jenny freeze up. Their conversation, once lively and engaging, now felt strained and unnerving. Eclipse23's cryptic remarks and evasive answers only fueled Jenny's discomfort, shattering the illusion of camaraderie she had envisioned. As the evening wore on, Jenny's unease transformed into a gnawing sense of dread. A realization dawned upon her. The person sitting across from her was nothing like the charming intellectual presence she had come to know online. A wave of apprehension washed over Jenny, prompting her to hastily excuse herself from the unsettling encounter. Her heart pounded with a mix of fear and relief as she fled the cafe, the feeling of unease lingering like a sinister shadow. Later that night, upon returning to the safety of her home, Jenny received a message from Eclipse23, a revelation that turned her blood cold. "You shouldn't have run away, Jenny. I know where you live now." Panic surged through her veins and she glanced around her apartment, heart pounding in her chest. She locked the doors and windows, her mind racing with horrifying possibilities. How had Eclipse 23 discovered her address? Minutes turned into agonizing hours as Jenny remained huddled in her apartment, the fear of an imminent threat consuming her thoughts. She considered contacting the authorities, but without concrete evidence or a real identity, it felt futile. Just as she dared to hope for a respite from the terror, a faint knock echoed from her front door. Her breath caught in her throat as she tiptoed toward the peephole, heart pounding with trepidation. A hooded figure stood outside, their face concealed within the shadows. She heard a voice that emanated from beyond the door. "I told you, Jenny, you can't escape me." With trembling hands, Jenny frantically reached for her phone to call for help, but the lights flickered ominously, plunging the apartment into darkness. Her heart raced as the reality of her vulnerable state dawned upon her. The hooded figure's laughter reverberated through the hollow silence, growing louder as it crept closer to the door, a grim reminder of the horrifying truth. Eclipse 23's deception had transformed into a menacing reality, a terrifying encounter with an unknown and sinister presence. The night ended in terror, a harrowing reminder that behind the facade of anonymity lay the lurking danger of deceptive connections. Jenny's pulse quickened, her breath shallow and rapid as she huddled in the corner of her darkened apartment. The hooded figure's ominous presence lingered outside her door, an alarming reminder of the dangerous depths lurking behind the facade of her online acquaintance, Eclipse 23. Her phone lay just out of reach, its screen flickering in the blackness that enveloped the room. Jenny's mind raced, grappling with fear and desperation. The realization of her vulnerability in the face of this unknown threat made her pulse rise. As she strained to control her panicked breathing, a sudden movement caught her eye, a faint glow emanating from her laptop on the coffee table. It flickered, the screen illuminating the room with an odd blue hue. Jenny's heart raced with a mix of dread and curiosity. Despite her apprehension, she inched closer, her fingers trembling as she reached for the laptop. The device seemed to beckon her, offering a lifeline amidst the encroaching darkness. With a hesitant touch, Jenny opened the laptop, revealing the screen displaying her chat history with Eclipse 23. A flurry of messages appeared, each more alarming than the last. "You can't hide forever, Jenny. I know everything about you." The words glowed ominously on the screen, a stark reminder of the looming threat outside her door. Jenny's mind raced with fear, grappling for a solution amidst the overwhelming dread. In a desperate attempt to seek help, she accessed a messaging app, typing frantic pleas for assistance to a friend. Her fingers trembled on the keys, the urgency of her situation propelling her forward. But as she hit send, the screen froze, the cursor blinking ominously before it vanished altogether. Panic surged through Jenny as she realized her only hope of reaching out was now lost. The sound of footsteps echoed outside her door, growing closer with each passing second. Jenny's breath hitched, her heart pounding in her chest as she searched desperately for an escape route. She scanned the room, her eyes darting to the window. With a surge of determination, she lunged toward it, fumbling to open the latch in a frenzied attempt to flee the encroaching danger. As she pushed the window open, a gust of cold night air rushed in. But before she could clamber out, a voice pierced the silence from behind her. "I told you, Jenny, there's nowhere to run." A hand, cloaked in darkness, seized her shoulder, wrenching her backward with unnerving strength. Jenny's scream echoed through the room as she struggled against the relentless grip, her fight for escape futile against the overpowering force. The hooded figure towered over her, their presence suffocating, their identity shrouded in the darkness. A sense of dread enveloped Jenny as she realized the sheer helplessness of her situation. The hooded figure leaned closer, their breath against her ear as they whispered, "It's too late now." In a horrifying moment, Jenny was dragged into the unknown abyss beyond her apartment, leaving behind only echoes of her piercing screams that faded into the night. The dark shroud of mystery and terror remained, an unsettling reminder of the perils that lurked within the maze of online connections. The night ended in an abyss of fear, leaving behind a mystic legacy of the dangers concealed behind deceptive encounters in the digital realm. Amelia Carter had always been attuned to the subtle shifts in her surroundings. It started with a fleeting glance from a stranger on her morning commute, a whisper of familiarity in the bustling cityscape. Insignificant, she had thought at first, until a series of incidents began to unravel the fragile tapestry of her life. One crisp autumn morning, as Amelia emerged from her apartment building, she caught a glimpse of a figure lingering in the shadows, a silhouette veiled by the early morning mist. The person vanished into the bustling crowd before she could discern more than a haunting impression, leaving her unsettled and on edge. Days passed, and Amelia's unease grew. She noticed a series of subtle but scary signs, a flickering street lamp that seemed to follow her on her evening walks, a cryptic note tucked beneath her door, and inexplicable phone calls that dissolved into static when answered. The messages were cryptic, fragments of sentences that hinted at a familiarity with her past, details only someone intimately acquainted with her life could possess. Paranoia gnawed at the edges of her mind, and she found herself scrutinizing every passerby, every shadow that danced along the pavement. As the incidents escalated, so did Amelia's desperation to unearth the elusive stalker. She combed through the corridors of her memory, searching for a connection to the cryptic messages, but the past offered no solace, only a labyrinth of uncertainties. The turning point came when she stumbled upon an old journal, its pages yellowed with time. Buried within its faded ink lay the remnants of a long-forgotten friendship, a friendship that had soured into betrayal and resentment. With a jolt of realization, Amelia made a connection. The stalker's cryptic messages held echoes of a past she had tried to bury, a past entangled in broken promises and shattered trust. Fueled by a mix of fear and determination, Amelia delved deeper, seeking answers to the haunting puzzle that had invaded her life. Each step she took seemed to bring her closer to the truth, a truth veiled in shadows and obscured by a relentless pursuer. One fateful evening, as the city lay shrouded in darkness, Amelia found herself at the rendezvous point, a desolate alleyway that bore witness to the climax of her unsettling pursuit. The stalker stood before her, their face obscured by the cloak of night. A silence hung in the air as Amelia confronted the mysterious figure, a culmination of weeks of torment and uncertainty. The stalker's whispered words carried a familiarity, the echo of a voice from the past that sent shivers down her spine. "You thought you could escape me," the stalker hissed, their voice laced with a haunting familiarity. "But the past always finds a way back." Amelia's heart raced, her breath shallow as she grappled with the horrifying revelation, a revelation that unraveled the sinister connection to her own history. Before she could respond, the stalker vanished into the obscurity of the night, leaving Amelia haunted by the realization that the past she had long tried to forget had returned with a vengeance. As the night drew to a close, Amelia stood alone in the alleyway, her mind reeling with the unsettling encounter. The stalker's warning lingered, a reminder that the echoes of the past could never truly be silenced. And though the confrontation had ended, the true horror lay in the realization that the haunting pursuit might never cease, leaving Amelia ensnared in an inescapable web spun from the tangled threads of her own history. Haunted by the unsettling encounter, Amelia found herself entangled in a maze of conflicting emotions, fear, confusion, and a haunting sense of déjà vu that clawed at her thoughts. The stalker's words reverberated in her mind, a ceaseless echo that refused to fade. Days became restless nights as Amelia grappled with the stalker's cryptic warning. She sought solace in the semblance of normalcy, but each mundane task was tainted by the ominous shadow of her past. In a desperate bid to break free from the relentless pursuit, Amelia sought refuge in the familiar confines of her childhood home. A quaint cottage nestled amid the tranquil countryside, a sanctuary she hoped would shield her from the haunting specter that had invaded her life. However, the solitude only amplified her paranoia. In the quietude of the countryside, every rustle of the leaves, every creak of the floorboards, carried a sinister implication. The stalker's unsettling messages lingered, their cryptic resonance echoing within the walls of the cottage. One evening, as twilight painted the sky in hues of amber and indigo, Amelia ventured into the surrounding woods, seeking solace in the tranquility of nature. The whispers of the leaves seemed to offer a fleeting respite from the suffocating grip of fear that plagued her. Yet, as dusk descended, an ominous sensation pricked at the edges of her consciousness. A shadow flitted between the trees, a specter veiled in darkness, an unwelcome visitor in the sanctuary she had sought. Panic surged within her, the sensation of being watched intensifying with every step she took. In a frenzied attempt to escape the encroaching terror, Amelia raced through the entangled paths, the haunting whispers of her past entwined with the echoes of the present. A sudden realization struck, an epiphany born from the convergence of fear and determination. With a resolve fueled by desperation, Amelia turned to confront the elusive figure that had dogged her steps. "Who are you?" she called out, her voice quivering but resolute, seeking answers that had eluded her for too long. A fleeting figure emerged from the shadows, a silhouette familiar yet shrouded in mystery. As it drew closer, Amelia's breath hitched, a collision of dread and recognition coursing through her veins. The figure stepped into the dim light, revealing a face she had long tried to forget, a face from her past, an acquaintance who had once been a trusted confidant but whose intentions had curdled into darkness. "You thought you could escape your past," the figure uttered, their voice laced with a haunting familiarity. "But the truth always catches up." Amelia's heart pounded against her chest, the past and present colliding in an unsettling crescendo. Memories of betrayal and unresolved grievances surfaced, intertwining with the realization that the stalker was none other than a past acquaintance, a person she had once trusted implicitly. A whirlwind of emotions swirled within her, a blend of rage, fear, and an overwhelming sense of betrayal. Before she could respond, the figure dissolved into the obscurity of the surrounding woods, leaving Amelia enveloped in a vortex of unresolved emotions and haunting revelations. As the night enveloped the tranquil countryside, Amelia stood amidst the silence, a tumultuous storm raging within her. The encounter had answered some questions but left a trail of unanswered queries. An unresolved chapter from her past had resurfaced, leaving her ensnared in a haunting web spun from the tangled threads of betrayal and fear. With a heavy heart burdened by the echoes of her past, Amelia knew that the confrontation had only scratched the surface of a mystery far more intricate and unsettling than she could have imagined. The stalker's ominous warning reverberated within her, a grim reminder that the pursuit was far from over, and the tendrils of her past would continue to ensnare her in an inescapable cycle of fear and uncertainty. Story 2. The towering skyscraper of Tenebrous Enterprises loomed over the bustling city, its sleek glass exterior reflecting the chaotic hum of corporate ambition that permeated within. Among the sea of ambitious professionals navigating the jungle of cubicles, Claire Hastings stood as a rising star, a dedicated and focused asset to the company's marketing division. Claire's routine at Tenebrous had been methodical until the arrival of peculiar notes that disrupted her semblance of normalcy. It started innocuously, with the first note slipping beneath her office door, a cryptic message that hinted at personal details, secrets only privy to her thoughts. The message bore an unsettling familiarity, a revelation that pierced the facade of professional decorum. As the days passed, the notes increased in frequency, each revealing intimate aspects of Claire's life, details that no one within the company should possess. Fear gripped her heart, transforming the once familiar office environment into a claustrophobic maze of paranoia. Every passerby seemed a potential threat, every corner harboring an unseen observer. The whispers of her colleagues became ominous murmurs, their glances laden with suspicion and curiosity. Desperate for answers, Claire navigated the harrowing corridors of her past, searching for a connection to the unsettling messages that had infiltrated her professional sanctuary. Yet her past remained shrouded in secrecy, offering no solace or explanation for the invasive scrutiny she faced. As the stalker's relentless pursuit escalated, Claire's work suffered, her once sharp focus clouded by the suffocating grip of fear. The notes became increasingly sinister, the stalker's intentions veiled in menacing implications. One fateful evening, as the office lay bathed in a silence, Claire lingered behind to confront the unseen adversary haunting her professional existence. The flickering fluorescent lights cast elongated shadows that danced along the corridors, mirroring the unsettling uncertainty that loomed over her. In a daring attempt to unveil the identity of her tormentor, Claire ventured into the deserted office, each step a testament to her resolve to unravel the mystery. The silence was deafening, broken only by the sound of her racing heartbeat echoing through the vacant halls. A figure emerged from the shadows, a phantom draped in darkness, their features obscured by the veil of obscurity. Claire's pulse quickened, a visceral combination of terror and determination urging her forward. "Who are you?" she demanded, her voice wavering but resolute, seeking the answers that had eluded her. The figure remained silent, a spectral presence that seemed to blend seamlessly with the surrounding darkness. A flicker of recognition surged within Claire, a haunting familiarity that sent a cold drop of sweat down her neck. Before she could comprehend the implications, the figure dissipated into the maze depths of the office, leaving Claire enveloped in a silence that reverberated with the sinister revelation. The encounter had offered no closure, only a haunting realization, a truth that clawed at the recesses of her mind. The stalker's ominous warning lingered, a reminder that the shadows within the workplace held secrets far more insidious than she had ever dared to imagine. As the night descended upon the office, Claire stood alone, her thoughts engulfed in a tempest of unanswered questions. The confrontation had left her ensnared in an unsettling uncertainty, a claustrophobic maze of fear where the stalker's identity remained an elusive enigma, an unresolved terror that haunted the very corridors she navigated each day. The office, once a bastion of professional aspiration, now harbored shadows that whispered dark secrets, secrets that threatened to consume Claire in an inescapable network of fear and uncertainty. Haunted by the encounter, Claire found herself in a relentless pursuit for answers. Days turned into nights, and nights blurred into restless slumber, haunted by recurring visions of the enigmatic figure shrouded in darkness. The workplace, once a thriving hub of productivity, had transformed into an ominous maze of paranoia. Every glance felt like an accusation, every whispered conversation a potential harbinger of impending doom. Claire's professional persona had become a mere facade, veiling the harrowing turmoil that raged within her. Determined to unmask the identity of her tormentor, Claire embarked on a relentless investigation, meticulously scrutinizing her professional and personal circles for any semblance of connection to the mysterious stalker. But the elusive figure remained an enigma, a specter that lingered at the periphery of her consciousness. Amid the tormenting uncertainty, Claire sought refuge in the solace of a trusted confidant, her longtime colleague and friend, Alex. She confided in him, divulging the haunting saga that had plunged her life into disarray. Alex listened intently, a furrow creasing his brow as Claire recounted the events that had unfolded within the confines of their workplace. "Claire, this is disturbing," Alex murmured, concern etched on his features. "Let me help you. We'll figure this out together." The prospect of an ally in her battle against the unknown invigorated Claire with a renewed sense of hope. Together they combed through the intricacies of Claire's life, piecing together fragments of past encounters and acquaintances, in a fervent attempt to unmask the stalker's identity. The days quickly turned into weeks, and the relentless pursuit for answers cast a suffocating veil over Claire's existence. Yet, amidst the twist of uncertainties, a breakthrough emerged, an unexpected connection that illuminated the dim recesses of her memory. A memory, long relegated to the depths of forgotten encounters, surfaced. An encounter with a former colleague, whose presence had once been an inconsequential blip in Claire's professional trajectory. As realization dawned, Claire's heart raced with a tumultuous blend of dread and resolution. She discovered unsettling truths buried within the forgotten contours of her past, a past entwined with fractured relationships and veiled intentions. Summoning the vestiges of courage that had been obscured by fear, Claire confronted the former colleague, the figure who had once been a fleeting shadow within her professional sphere. "You." Claire's voice trembled with a mixture of accusation and apprehension as she confronted the figure who stood before her, their presence once innocuous but now shrouded in malice. The former colleague's features contorted into a chilling smirk, a haunting echo of Claire's suspicions. "You never saw it coming, did you?" they taunted, their voice dripping with vindictive satisfaction. Claire's pulse quickened, a jarring realization settling like an icy weight in the pit of her stomach. The stalker's identity, once concealed within the familiar contours of her workplace, had finally emerged from the shadows. Before she could muster a response, the figure disappeared into the depths of the office, leaving Claire ensnared in an unsettling epiphany. An epiphany that the true horror was not in the identity of the stalker, but in the disquieting revelation that the corridors she once navigated with confidence had harbored treachery and deception. The confrontation had unraveled the mystery, yet it left Claire burdened with the realization that the workplace menace she had faced was not merely an external threat. It was a sinister manifestation of betrayal lurking within the very fabric of her professional domain. As the office lay enveloped in the silence of the night, Claire stood alone, the haunting truth gnawing at her spirit. The stalker's identity had been unmasked, yet the true horror lay in the shadows cast by the echoes of deceit, a haunting reminder that the darkest threats often lurk within the corridors we least expect. Story 3. The sun rose above the rugged terrain, casting a golden hue upon the vast expanse of wilderness that stretched as far as the eye could see. A group of friends, bound by adventure and camaraderie, embarked on a hiking trip, an escapade into the heart of nature's embrace. Among them were Rachel, Alex, Emily, and Mark, a quartet united by their shared love for the outdoors. The trail snaked through dense woods, each step a testament to their exhilaration and the thrill of exploration. However, what started as an adventure into the untamed wilderness soon turned into a haunting ordeal. As the day waned and the sun dipped below the horizon, an unsettling sensation crept upon the group, a worrying presence that lingered at the edges of their consciousness. Unease settled like a shroud over the campsite, as inexplicable incidents disrupted the tranquility of the night. Subtle rustles in the underbrush, fleeting shadows in the moonlight, whispers of an unseen stalker silently tracking their every move. Paranoia simmered among the friends, festering into a brew of fear and suspicion. What was that? Rachel's voice trembled, a note of uncertainty lacing her words as she scanned the darkened woodland. Probably just a small animal, Alex reassured her. But the unease lingered, a palpable tension that hung heavy in the air. With every passing hour, the sense of being watched intensified. Mysterious scratches marred the tent flaps, and faint echoes of footsteps resonated through the night, a haunting symphony that amplified the group's apprehension. As dawn broke, the friends convened, their faces etched with concern. They resolved to explore the surrounding area, seeking to dispel the looming specter of paranoia that had eclipsed their once joyous adventure. However, the wilderness offered no solace, only a silence that seemed to mock their futile attempts to unravel the mystery. In their search, they stumbled upon cryptic markings etched upon tree trunks, an omen that hinted at a menacing presence lurking within the woods. Emily's voice quivered as she pointed to the symbols etched upon the bark. "What does this mean? Is someone following us?" Mark's attempts to allay their fears fell upon deaf ears, for the unspoken dread had woven its tendrils into the fabric of their minds. The stalker's intentions remained shrouded in uncertainty, the wilderness echoing with silent threats that haunted their every step. As dusk descended upon the landscape, a realization dawned upon the group. Their stalker was not a mere observer, but a creepy force, their intentions as enigmatic as the symbols that adorned the trees. In a desperate bid to evade the unseen pursuer, the friends pressed on, their pace quickening as the ominous silence of the woods grew deafening. Yet the stalker's presence loomed closer, an intangible cruelness that cast a pall over their flight. A piercing scream shattered the tranquility of the woods. Rachel's voice echoed through the foliage, a harrowing cry that bore the weight of impending terror. The group rushed to her aid, their hearts pounding with dread as they found her trembling, a terrified gaze fixed upon the surrounding wilderness. "There was someone there," Rachel gasped, her words choked with fear. A figure, lurking in the shadows. Panic seized the group, their resolve splintering in the face of the encounter. The stalker's unseen menace had materialized, its intentions veiled in the sinister echoes of the wilderness. As they attempted to flee, a haunting realization settled upon them. Trapped within the labyrinth of the woods, they were at the mercy of an adversary whose intentions remained shrouded in the enigma of the wilderness. The harrowing ordeal culminated in an unspoken understanding. Their stalker's identity would forever remain an unsolved mystery, and the echoes of that haunting night in the wilderness would linger as a testament to the unfathomable horrors that nature could conceal. With hearts racing and fear clawing at their souls, they bolted through the dense undergrowth, their frenzied escape echoing through the woods, a final attempt to outrun the ominous presence that stalked their every move. Yet as the darkness enveloped them, the chilling reality lingered, an unresolved terror that lurked within the wilderness, a haunting reminder that the untamed wild could harbor the darkest of secrets. The group, gripped by terror, navigated the dense thicket, their strides frantic as they attempted to outpace the unseen menace. With each passing moment, the veil of darkness deepened, obscuring their path and amplifying their sense of desperation. Emily's breaths came in ragged gasps as she stumbled over roots and fallen branches, her heart pounding in synchrony with the frenetic rhythm of the forest. She glanced over her shoulder, her eyes wide with fear, half expecting to glimpse the silhouette that haunted their every step. "We can't keep running blindly." Mark's voice, tinged with urgency, cut through the cacophony of their panicked flight. "We need to find shelter, regroup, and figure this out." His words resonated with the semblance of reason, a flicker of hope amidst the encroaching darkness. They veered off the trail, seeking refuge amid the snarl of trees, their hearts burdened by the lingering presence of their unknown pursuer. As they huddled together, the forest seemed to draw them into its embrace, the night alive with whispers that stirred the foliage and rustled the leaves in a haunting symphony. Every snap of a twig and every distant howl of the wind carried with it the ominous echo of their pursuer's unseen presence. Shrouded in the suffocating embrace of uncertainty, the friends attempted to piece together the fragmented events that had culminated in their harrowing flight. But their attempts at coherence were thwarted by the palpable dread that pervaded their sanctuary, the fear palpable in their shared silence. Hours stretched into an unsettling vigil, each passing minute weighed down by the oppressive atmosphere of the forest. Anxiety gnawed at their resolve, fraying the fragile threads of hope that bound them together. Amidst the suffocating tension, a faint rustling interrupted the silence, a subtle yet unmistakable indication that their unseen pursuer lingered in the shadows, observing their desperate plight. "Who's there?" Alex's voice quivered, a trembling plea for answers in the face of an implacable adversary. The forest offered no response, the silence a testament to the enigmatic terror that lurked within its depths. Paralyzed by fear, the friends huddled closer, their unity their sole defense against the unknown menace that encircled them. As the night wore on, a distant glimmer of dawn cast a faint light upon the horizon, the promise of a new day tainted by the lingering dread that had consumed their once carefree excursion. A sudden realization dawned upon them, a somber acknowledgement that their stalker's identity would remain forever veiled within the shroud of the wilderness. With a heavy heart burdened by unresolved terror, they mustered the remnants of their courage to resume their journey out of the treacherous woods. The trek back to civilization was fraught with trepidation, every rustle in the underbrush and every gust of wind a haunting reminder of the peril they had narrowly escaped. Finally emerging from the suffocating embrace of the forest, the friends stood at the threshold of safety, their faces etched with relief tinged by the haunting memories of the night that had forever altered their perception of the untamed wild. Their experience remained an unspoken testament, an unsettling reminder that within the pristine tranquility of nature's embrace, there existed an unfathomable terror that could ensnare the unwary, leaving behind an indelible mark of fear and uncertainty. Story 4. The sprawling campus of Arden University buzzed with the excitement of academia, its vibrant atmosphere a sanctuary for aspiring minds seeking knowledge and enlightenment. Among the throng of students, Sarah Adams navigated the corridors of higher learning, her academic pursuits overshadowed by an insidious presence that lurked within the campus's confines. It started with inconspicuous notes, cryptic messages that materialized in Sarah's dorm room, warning her of an unseen observer who had infiltrated her academic haven. Initially dismissive, Sarah attributed the notes to a misguided prank, a fleeting disturbance in the otherwise serene ambiance of campus life. However, the notes grew increasingly malevolent, each message bearing a menacing undertone that unsettled Sarah's peace of mind. Intrusive evidence of stalking emerged, subtle but invasive clues that hinted at a relentless pursuer weaving through the very fabric of her academic and personal existence. Sinister shadows seemed to dance at the periphery of Sarah's vision, a dark reminder of the pervasive threat that encroached upon her sanctuary of learning. Paranoia gnawed at her consciousness, a haunting uncertainty that reverberated through every corridor and lecture hall. As the stalker's relentless pursuit intensified, Sarah's academic aspirations faltered, her once ardent passion for learning overshadowed by the suffocating fear that ensnared her. The campus, once a bastion of intellectual growth, transformed into a web of shadows where every face became a potential adversary. Desperate for answers, Sarah sought solace in the confines of her friendships. Yet, the insidious presence remained elusive, a ghostly entity manipulating the very fabric of her existence within the university's hallowed halls. With unease etched upon her features, Sarah confided in her closest confidant, Emily, divulging the saga that had shattered her collegiate tranquility. Emily, alarmed by the gravity of Sarah's plight, resolved to uncover the identity of the relentless stalker. Together, they embarked on a perilous quest for truth, scouring the campus for clues that would unmask the hateful specter haunting Sarah's academic sanctuary. Yet, the stalker's cunning evaded their pursuit, leaving behind a trail of cryptic messages that taunted their futile efforts. One ominous evening, as dusk cloaked the campus in an eerie twilight, Sarah found herself ensnared in a confrontation, an encounter that would forever alter her perception of the seemingly idyllic academic domain. The stalker materialized, a spectral figure shrouded in darkness, their features obscured by the veil of anonymity. Sarah's heart raced with a palpable dread as the stalker's voice reverberated through the deserted courtyard. "You thought you could escape me." The voice, laced with malice, echoed through the corridors of Sarah's terror-stricken mind. Before Sarah could comprehend the gravity of the situation, the figure vanished into the night, leaving behind an unsettling void, an unresolved terror that lingered within the very walls of her collegiate refuge. As the night descended upon the campus, Sarah stood alone, the encounter a haunting reminder of the shadows that lurked within the seemingly tranquil abode of learning. The confrontation had unraveled the mystery, yet it had left Sarah ensnared in an unsettling epiphany, the realization that the sanctuary of knowledge she had cherished was not immune to the insidious threats that festered within its corridors. The campus, once a beacon of scholarly pursuits, now harbored an enigma, a lurking menace that cast a pall over the very essence of Sarah's academic journey. In the hushed silence of the night, Sarah stood at the threshold of a disquieting revelation. A revelation that within the halls of higher education lay secrets far more sinister than any lesson the textbooks could impart. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting elongated shadows across the quiet street. It was here, amid the fading light, that Blake Reynolds felt the prickling sensation of being watched. He hurried his pace, a cold settling in his bones as a sense of unease grew. At first it was a subtle feeling, a lingering awareness that someone followed his every move. The shadows seemed to elongate unnaturally, bending in shapes that resembled a silhouette, one that mirrored his own gait. Blake glanced over his shoulder, but there was no one there. Days passed, yet the sensation persisted, a haunting presence, a figure that stayed just beyond his line of sight. Blake attempted to rationalize it, attributing the unease to work stress or fatigue, but the feeling lingered like a whisper brushing against the edges of his consciousness. It wasn't until he stumbled upon an old family album tucked away in the attic that a cold sweat raced down his back. Amid the faded photographs, a familiar face emerged. A face he hadn't seen in years, one he had hoped to forget. The figure in the photographs, a haunting reminder of a past he had tried to bury, was unmistakably similar to the elusive shadow that had been tailing him. Blake's mind raced as fragmented memories resurfaced, a turbulent past marred by events he wished to erase. With trepidation, he delved deeper into his own history, a history laced with unresolved conflicts and secrets. He unearthed forgotten names and faces, each thread leading back to a chapter he had locked away, hoping it would remain confined to the annals of time. Yet the more he searched, the clearer the connection became. The stalker bore a disturbing resemblance to a tormentor from his youth, a tormentor whose ominous presence had cast a pall over his formative years. The realization struck Blake with chilling clarity. The figure lurking in the shadows was a ghost from his past, an embodiment of the darkness he had fought so hard to escape. Panic set in as he grappled with the prospect of facing a specter he had long thought vanquished. In a desperate attempt to confront the haunting apparition, Blake returned to the neighborhood where he had spent his troubled adolescence. A feeling of impending doom clouded his senses as he retraced steps he had long avoided. As he neared the decrepit house, a relic of a tumultuous past, he saw the silhouette materialize, standing at the edge of the dimly lit street. The figure remained cloaked in darkness, an ominous specter that triggered a surge of visceral fear. With trembling steps, Blake approached, heart pounding in his chest. A sense of disquiet permeated the air as the figure turned slowly, revealing features twisted by spitefulness. Recognition dawned his eyes, clouded with malice, locked onto his. In a paralyzing moment, Blake comprehended the harrowing truth. The stalker, the apparition haunting his present, was the embodiment of the tormentor from his past, a specter resurrected from the shadows of his darkest memories. A gut-wrenching scream tore through the silence as the figure lunged forward, merging past and present into a nightmare. Blake's terror reached a crescendo as he realized that the horrors of his youth had resurfaced, embodied in the hateful force that now stood before him. The night shrouded the neighborhood in a strange silence, concealing the sinister conclusion to a tale woven with the threads of a dark past, a past that had come back to claim its vengeance, leaving behind a haunting legacy etched in fear and unrelenting terror. Blake's heart raced, the pounding reverberating through his chest as he grappled with the nightmarish realization that the figure before him was indeed his tormentor from the past. Memories surged, a tumultuous youth marked by anguish and a desperate flight from the haunting specter now manifesting in the present. Fear rooted Blake to the spot as the ill-willed apparition edged closer, a twisted smirk etched across its face. With every step, a sense of déjà vu washed over him, plunging him into the depths of a nightmarish past. In a moment of fleeting clarity, Blake recognized the facade of the abandoned house, a symbol of the unspeakable horrors he had endured. A suffocating sense of helplessness engulfed him, the ghostly figure a reminder of scars he had thought healed. With trembling hands, Blake groped for a semblance of control. Desperation fueled his resolve, urging him to confront the looming nightmare. "Why are you doing this?" he stammered, his voice strained with an undercurrent of terror. The figure's mocking laughter cut through the silence, a haunting sound that echoed with echoes of the past. "You thought you could escape me," it hissed, voice dripping with malice. "But the past always catches up, doesn't it?" Blake staggered backward, memories of the torment he had endured clawing at the fringes of his mind. Shadows danced around him, merging past and present into an inescapable vortex of dread. The figure lunged, a sinister glint in its eyes, and Blake stumbled, his back colliding with the cold, unforgiving ground. Panic surged, a primal fear that threatened to consume him whole. But in that moment of desperation, an unexpected surge of resilience bloomed within him. With a surge of defiance, he grappled against the suffocating grip of fear, drawing strength from the depths of his soul. Fueled by sheer willpower, Blake pushed himself to his feet, meeting the specter's gaze with unwavering determination. "You have no power over me," he declared, voice trembling but resolute. A fleeting flicker of uncertainty flashed across the figure's face, a fracture in its malevolent facade. For a brief moment, the air crackled with tension, an unspoken battle between the haunting past and the emboldened present. With a haunting laugh that echoed through the desolate street, the figure dissipated into the night, fading into the shadows from whence it came. Blake remained rooted to the spot, chest heaving with a mix of terror and relief, the echo of that sinister laughter haunting his thoughts. As dawn approached, a newfound sense of resolve surged within Blake. The past, though haunting, no longer held the same paralyzing grip. With determined steps, he walked away from the abandoned house, leaving behind the spectral remnants of a past he refused to be defined by. Though the encounter had shaken him to his core, Blake carried forth a newfound strength, an indomitable spirit forged from the crucible of fear and past torment. He vowed to confront his history and reclaim the fragments of his life that had long been held captive by shadows. The night had ended, but for Blake it marked the beginning of a journey toward healing and redemption, a journey where the echoes of his past would no longer dictate the path ahead. With resolute determination, he stepped into the dawn, leaving behind the scary stalker, the embodiment of his darkest fears, in the recesses of a haunted past, choosing to embrace a future untainted by the shadows that had once imprisoned him. Story 2. The Belford mansion stood as an aging relic amid the quiet countryside, its faded grandeur hiding secrets etched within its time-worn walls. When the Jenkins family embarked on its restoration, Little did they anticipate unearthing a hidden chamber that would unravel a sinister enigma. Tom Jenkins, a history enthusiast, envisioned restoring the mansion to its former glory. As renovations commenced, a mason accidentally stumbled upon a concealed passageway hidden behind a crumbling wall in the study. Curiosity piqued, Tom ventured into the newfound chamber, a space untouched by time, shrouded in a silence. The air hung heavy with the scent of age-old dust, and his footsteps echoed across the chamber's stone floor. Amid the darkness, Tom unearthed a series of cryptic messages etched into the walls, a tapestry of symbols and phrases. Intrigued, he set out to decipher their meaning, unaware of the sinister truth they concealed. With each passing day, Tom became consumed by the hidden chamber's mysteries. The cryptic messages hinted at a history darker than the mansion's facade suggested, a tale of evil forces veiled within its walls. The more Tom delved into the chamber's secrets, the more he sensed a presence, a sensation that seemed to linger even after he exited the chamber, following him like a shadow. Unease crept into the Jenkins household. Unexplained occurrences plagued the family, whispers in the dead of night, fleeting shadows darting across the corridors, and an unshakable feeling of being watched. Tom tried to rationalize these phenomena, attributing them to the stress of the renovations. As he delved deeper into the hidden chamber's mysteries, Tom uncovered a startling connection to the mansion's past, an unspeakable tragedy that had transpired within its walls. Cryptic messages hinted at a force that had tormented past inhabitants. With a growing sense of trepidation, Tom realized that the chamber held more than just forgotten secrets. It concealed a sinister entity, a dormant force awakened by their intrusion. As Tom painstakingly deciphered the cryptic messages, a revelation struck. The entity, long confined to the hidden chamber, sought liberation, its dark past seeping into the fabric of the mansion. One fateful night, as Tom toiled over the inscriptions, a sudden gust of wind rattled the mansion's windows. Whispers echoed through the corridors, chilling him to the bone. Panic surged as shadows danced across the walls, coalescing into a sinister figure, the embodiment of the malice force. With a blood-curdling shriek, the entity surged forth, a darkness unchained from its confines. Tom's heart raced as he grappled with a terror beyond comprehension. The truth of the mansion's sinister secret revealed in its horrifying manifestation. In a frenzied escape, Tom bolted from the hidden chamber, the entity's laughter haunting his every step. The mansion, once a symbol of elegance, now pulsated with an ominous energy, a darkness that had been unleashed. Though Tom and his family fled the mansion, they carried with them a haunting truth, a legacy of fear etched within the walls of the Belford mansion. The hidden chamber, a repository of cryptic messages, became a harbinger of an unspeakable horror, a sinister secret that would forever cast its shadow over the mansion, a reminder of the force lurking within its depths. Deep within the hidden chamber of the Belford mansion, the entity, unshackled from its long confinement, continued to seethe with an insatiable hunger for terror. As night descended upon the estate, a silence draped over the once stately halls, concealing the impending dread. Tom Jenkins and his family sought refuge in a nearby inn, but the horrors they had unearthed within the mansion lingered, festering like a wound that refused to heal. Nightmares plagued their sleep, visions of the sinister entity tormenting their restless minds. Meanwhile, back at the mansion, darkness took on a life of its own, an old force that prowled the corridors, its presence suffocating the very essence of the estate. Whispers echoed through the walls, carrying cryptic messages that reverberated with a mystic intent. Weeks passed, and the Jenkins family, haunted by the mysterious force, couldn't shake off the feeling of impending doom. Desperate for closure, Tom resolved to confront the entity, to put an end to the spectral horror that had invaded their lives. Returning to the mansion under the shroud of dusk, Tom entered cautiously, his pulse racing with apprehension. The air felt thick with an otherworldly chill, and an unsettling stillness settled over the estate. In the hidden chamber where the entity had been unleashed, Tom noticed a peculiar change. A sinister energy pulsated within the room, an aura of malice that seemed to throb in rhythm with his pounding heart. Gathering his resolve, Tom ventured deeper into the mansion's heart, navigating through the corridors. Whispers echoed around him, faint echoes of the malevolent force's intent, clues shrouded in cryptic messages. As he reached the hidden chamber, a surge of primal fear gripped Tom. Shadows danced in a haunting ballet across the walls, coalescing into a murky silhouette, an ominous figure that exuded an aura of palpable terror. The entity loomed before him, its form shifting and contorting with sinister movement. Tom braced himself, attempting to confront the entity's dark intentions. "What do you want?" he demanded, his voice quivering but determined. A malicious laughter filled the chamber, reverberating through the mansion. The entity's creepy response echoed with a cold, haunting tone. "I crave what you fear most," it taunted, its voice laced with an unholy hunger. With a sudden surge of courage, Tom fought back the encroaching dread, desperately seeking a way to dispel the weird force. He brandished an ancient talisman, an artifact he had discovered amidst the cryptic inscriptions, a last-ditch attempt to banish the entity. As Tom held the talisman aloft, an ethereal light radiated from its surface, casting a brilliant glow that pushed back the encroaching darkness. The entity recoiled, writhing in torment as if struck by an unseen force. With a deafening shriek that pierced through the very essence of the mansion, the entity dissipated into a spectral mist, vanishing into the depths from whence it came. Silence settled over the estate, broken only by Tom's heavy breaths, mingling with the fading echoes of the entity's laughter. Though the dark force had been banished, the Jenkins family knew the horrors they had encountered would linger, a haunting legacy etched within the walls of the Belford mansion. As dawn broke, Tom emerged from the estate, carrying with him a newfound strength, a resolve forged from facing the darkest of fears. The mansion, once a haven for unspeakable malevolence, stood silent, a relic haunted by the echoes of a sinister secret, a secret that would forever endure as a testament to the indomitable force of fear and the enduring power of human resilience. Story 3. Emily Simmons was an unassuming writer, her days punctuated by the rhythmic routine of life in the bustling city. Yet one seemingly ordinary morning, an innocuous envelope lay atop her morning paper, bearing no return address. Curiosity piqued, Emily opened the envelope to find a note, a meticulous account detailing her daily routine with unsettling accuracy. Every mundane task, from her morning coffee at the corner cafe to her evening walk in the park, was meticulously chronicled. A cold ran down Emily's back as she read the intimate details outlined in the note, details only someone keenly observant could have known. Questions tugged at her mind. Who could possess such intricate knowledge of her life? And more pertinently, why? Dismissal gave way to a nagging unease that lingered, each daily activity tainted by the voyeuristic nature of the mysterious note. Emily scrutinized her surroundings, scrutinizing every passerby for a hint of familiarity, a glint of recognition. With a growing sense of paranoia, Emily's routine became a delicate dance, second-guessing her every move, her once mundane life cast under a cloud of suspicion. Sleep eluded her, and the constant scrutiny wore her down, fraying the edges of her sanity. Desperate for answers, Emily delved into her past, a labyrinth of relationships and encounters that might harbor clues. Yet the more she searched, the deeper the mystery grew. No tangible connection to the elusive entity behind the note. As the days lingered and Emily's distress escalated, the note now a sinister presence, its words etched in her mind like a haunting melody. She felt a pervasive gaze, an unseen eye scrutinizing her every move, tormenting her with a sense of helplessness. One evening, as dusk settled over the city, Emily ventured to the park. An eerie calm pervaded the air. The space felt unfamiliar, shadows elongating into sinister shapes, a stark contrast to its usual serenity. A sudden rustle in the bushes sent a jolt of fear through Emily's veins. She spun around, heart racing, expecting to confront the unknown entity behind the unsettling note. But there was nothing, only the whispering of the wind through the trees. Anxiety clenched at her chest, a worrying sense that the mystery had taken a sinister turn. As Emily retraced her steps, a realization struck. A familiar figure lingered in the distance, cloaked in darkness. With trembling hands, Emily approached, her heart pounding in her ears. The figure remained motionless, a spectral silhouette that seemed to merge with the gathering shadows. "Who are you?" Emily called out, her voice quivering with a mix of fear and desperation. A scary laugh pierced the silence, a haunting sound that echoed with the cryptic intent of the note. "I am the reflection of your deepest fears," the figure replied, its voice hollow yet resonant. In a sudden rush of terror, Emily turned to flee, only to find herself surrounded by shadowy apparitions, ethereal figures that mirrored her own movements, closing in with an ominous intent. The darkness enveloped her, a suffocating embrace that consumed her very essence. Emily's screams echoed through the park, fading into the night, a testament to a mystery unresolved, a sinister connection to an unknown entity that lurked within the recesses of her own mind. Emily gasped for breath, her pulse racing with an unrelenting rhythm. Darkness enveloped her, shrouding the once familiar park in an otherworldly haze. She struggled against the suffocating grip of fear, the oppressive weight of the unknown entity bearing down on her. Echoes of her own frantic heartbeat reverberated through the void, each pulse a baleful reminder of her escalating terror. She reached out in a desperate attempt to grasp at something, anything, but the spectral figures loomed closer, encircling her in an unbreakable ring. With a surge of determination, Emily fought against the paralyzing fear, a flicker of resilience blooming within her. She steeled herself against the encroaching darkness, a defiant glimmer in the face of an unseen adversary. "I won't be afraid of you," Emily declared, her voice quivering but resolute. "You're nothing but a manifestation of my own fears." The ethereal figures hesitated, their incorporeal forms wavering as if thrown off balance by her words. The darkness quivered, a ripple of uncertainty unsettling its sinister hold. In a moment of unexpected clarity, Emily realized the truth. The baffling entity, the note, the haunting whispers, all manifestations of her deepest insecurities, her anxieties manifested in spectral form. Summoning every ounce of courage, Emily confronted the ethereal figures with unwavering determination. "You can't control me," she proclaimed, her voice steady despite the tumultuous fear gnawing at her core. The figures wavered, their spectral forms flickering like candle flames in a gale. Emily pressed forward, each step a resounding declaration of defiance against the encroaching darkness. With a sudden surge of resolve, Emily reached into the depths of her own psyche, grappling with the fears that had tormented her. She acknowledged them, accepted them, and in that acceptance, she discovered an unforeseen strength. The spectral figures quivered, their once menacing demeanor fading into a dark stillness. The darkness dissipated, receding like a retreating tide, leaving Emily standing alone in the park, her breathing labored but resolute. As dawn broke on the horizon, a newfound sense of empowerment surged within Emily. She emerged from the park, her steps carrying the weight of an unsettling revelation, a disturbing truth that the entity behind the mysterious note was an embodiment of her deepest fears. Though the encounter had shaken her to the core, Emily carried forth a newfound resilience, a resolve born from confronting her own insecurities. The strange note that had once tormented her now held no power. It was but a reminder of the strength she had discovered within herself. The city stirred to life, oblivious to the harrowing ordeal Emily had faced. She walked away from the park, leaving behind the echoes of her fears, choosing to embrace a future liberated from the shadows that had once imprisoned her mind. With each step, she carried the unspoken courage, the courage to confront the unknown, the courage to conquer her fears, and the courage to embark on a path unshackled from the haunting whispers that had once held her captive.